We are live for night 2 of the 2026 NFL Draft for rounds 2 and 3 on Keon Sports. I'm your host, Brandon Marvel. Alongside me today, Dominic Clary. Behind us producing, we have Brandon Soder-Penner. And joining us live as well is Cole McDaniel. We have a lot to get ahead to tonight. Gentlemen, how are we feeling?
I'll go first because Cole can't really see me, and they got to talk over each other a lot today. Excited to be here. Had the rep to Cordell Stewart, Jerome Bettis, Central Division champion shirt in celebration of the Super Bowl of the draft being at Pittsburgh. Excited to be back with you guys to celebrate the start of the Pittsburgh Steelers championship tour.
Cole? I don't want to follow that up. You go right ahead.
You know, honestly, good to be back with you guys here again for night 2. Faster pace always moves along much quicker than it does on night 1. But a lot of good players can still be picked here in round 2, round 3. A lot of value. There was quite a few teams who didn't have any picks in the first round, as we talked about last night. Disappointed with how the Browns fared and how they handled their picks. However, they're coming up soon on the clock. They're at pick 39, so they're within striking distance of potentially adding another wide receiver like a Denzel Boston or somebody along those lines. So it'd be interesting if they can strengthen that room. I could see them going a safety like McNeil Warren. So I think there's quite a few players that are going to be in the mix for them. I'm hoping that the Browns can pick up some steam here in the second and third round compared to what we saw in the first. They addressed the needs, but did they actually really address the needs? I'm not sure yet. So kind of skeptical. I know we are a little skeptical, and we'll touch on the Browns a lot more here tonight.
Yeah, and I'm looking back at it, reflecting. I'm not quite as low on the Browns draft as I was last night. I do think Fano, they're going to be able to figure out something with him. I mean, the best overall tackle prospect in the draft, at least on my board. I don't know what it's necessarily going to look like if he's sliding in the left or if we're moving things around, but we got a talented offensive lineman in the building. Sure, it can be Jedrick Wills 2.0, but I'm going to try to be optimistic until I'm not. I still don't love the wide receiver pick that we grabbed there, I'm completely blank on his name, Concepcion. I think there were definitely better options available there. Not that Concepcion's a bad player, but it's just not the guy that we necessarily needed in that spot, which is why I'm with Cole kind of hoping that we go wide receiver here. I do think cornerback is another potential spot where they could address early safety. Board's still kind of wide open, and there's still some, I think, first-round talent kind of sitting at the top here.
Yeah, Cole, you mentioned it. A lot of teams didn't pick last night. 2 of them traded out of their picks in the first round to come early in the second round in the San Francisco 49ers and the Buffalo Bills. And the Bills were rumored to have wanted to call and trade up to take Casey Concepcion. That eventually obviously ended up going to the Browns. But as a Browns fan, you know, I had my piece about the pick last night. I wasn't the biggest fan. And I don't know if it's a good sign or a bad sign that teams wanted to trade up, especially with that team being the Bills and their kind of history with draft selections at wide receiver. Cole, I mean, how do you feel about the Bills maybe wanted to trade up for him last night?
Yeah, honestly, I think the most interesting thing about the Bills, Marvel, was that how many times that they traded down and just continued to acquire picks. So they, in multiple spots, dropped back. So they got a couple later picks. They acquired then a few additional picks as well, too. And then you also have to think, and they also brought in DJ Moore in the offseason. And that's one of those things where if DJ Moore is performing like DJ Moore can, then DJ Moore's the best receiver that the Bills have had in quite a while. So I think it's interesting that the moves they were making there. So the Bills finally actually likely going to make a pick tonight, which will be something to pay attention to. Again, still a team that hasn't been able to get over that hump. They feel like they're a Super Bowl contending team. Ultimately, it's a matter of can they actually get there. Last year was a perfect opportunity because the Chiefs weren't in their way. They weren't able to capitalize on it. But ultimately, the Bills, if they can piece things together a little bit better, then they have a chance to still make a run at the Super Bowl.
And it looks like you were going to say something before I kind of cut you off and jumped into the Bills there, but did you have a thought?
Yeah, I was just thinking that I think when it comes to the way we look at the guys that the Browns drafted is that we kind of have the Stefanski regime stuck in our head about how a lot of players that we thought would progress really didn't, and some guys that kind of we didn't think were going to progress did. And that's what's interesting about Stefanski's time with the Browns. This isn't Stefanski anymore. This is a different group coming in. They're going to develop guys differently. And I know with Browns fans, it's the same old Browns. I know the way everyone thinks here, and I completely understand. But you have a talented offensive line. Who knows if they'll move him left or right? But all you know is that he was a talented prospect. Many people thought he was one of the better offensive linemen going into the draft. So you have someone that a lot of people do hold in high regard. And you have a wide receiver that has a lot of speed, right? Yeah, he's not going to be your number one wide receiver, and he may never be a number one wide receiver. But at the end of the day, you have more talent in the building, in a room, especially the wide receiver room, that lacked talent. I mean, altogether, that was a talentless room last year that had a few guys. Really, the only guys I really liked were Isaiah Bond, Tillman had moments, and then Fannin. That was it. And then Judy did whatever he was doing out there, fumbling and dropping the ball every 3 seconds or not getting targets at all. But you added a guy who has potential to be deadly in certain moments. Again, not all your questions are answered for the Cleveland Browns, but you're getting closer to that, and that's the step. This is going to be a longer rebuild than I think fans wanted, and that's because your money is so tied up in Deshaun Watson. But right now, it's a step forward. You're not going to have your quarterback answer this year, most likely. You're not going to fix your team. You're not going to be a winning team next year. But you're taking a one small step to getting to that the prospect of being a winning team. And I think they're not as far as we think they are. I think they're maybe 2-3 years away from having a season where they're approaching that 9-10 wins a season. But they're just not there yet, and this is a nice first step. And they still have, 10 more picks?
A lot. They have a lot. They added more last night when they traded number 6 back to number 9 with Kansas City, adding another 3rd and a 5th round pick. If I'm not mistaken, it was a 5th, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So another 3rd and a 5th round pick this year. And last night, I'm in agreement with Soderpenner on this one. I felt a lot worse last night about the Concepcion pick than I do today, hearing a lot more about really his percentages and his numbers. He is still at a 66% contested catch rate throughout his college career with NC State and then Texas A&M. So he's a guy that could, if he beats his coverage, whether it's zone or man, and he gets down there for a contested catch, the likelihood of him catching it is still probably high. He's what I like to call Njoku syndrome. Those easy balls he should catch, he tends to drop sometimes. And as Browns fans, we saw last year with Judy, Tillman, Fannin at the beginning of the year, Njoku all year last year, the drops just keep piling up. And when those keep piling up and bringing in a guy that doesn't have the most sure hands, I think that could cause some early, easy frustration with him.
Well, he was the best punt returner in the draft, right? So that's why he has to go first round.
Oh, yeah, that tweet I saw today that Barry liked that he was the best punt returner. And, if you get that guy, and he's an elite receiver too, in the top 5, I didn't have him in my top 5 receivers. But if that's like a 3rd-round guy that's the best punt returner, that's one thing. But you shouldn't draft a guy in the 1st round strictly because he's, quote, the best punt returner. That I saw that this morning, and I wasn't too happy about that.
Cole, I have a question for you. They have the rankings right now, Mel's best available of quarterbacks. They have Carson Beck, Nussmeier, Drew Aller, that Peyton kid, and then Cordell Stewart. Do you agree with that ranking of those quarterbacks? I'm curious to hear what you think, because anytime they throw in a North Dakota State quarterback, I always feel a little iffy about that, especially over a guy that played for Boise State when they had a real good year and had moments at Arkansas as well.
Well, no, because I have Cole Payton at 8, and he's a spot below Taylon Green. So
okay.
Obviously Fernando Mendoza off the board, Ty Simpson off the board. So that was number 1 and number 3 for me. Drew Aller is my number 2 in this class, same as SP. And then we have Garrett Nussmeier at 4, Carson Beck at 5 for me, Cade Klubnik at 6, and Taylon Green at 7. Now, Taylon Green has a higher ceiling than Cade Klubnik. I could go either way between those two players. I think that Taylon Green has the potential to become a better starter, where I think that Cade Klubnik is probably more of a backup and a spot starter in the future. but I think a lot of this quarterback class, there's a ton of guys who are going to be third stringers and fighting to stay on the roster. When we did get into Cole Payton, Luke Altmaier, Sawyer Robertson, Taylon Green, it should be right in the mix to be a backup that has a chance to be a backup for a long time, maybe even sneak into the starting job. I don't necessarily think he's going to be an elite talent as a starter, but because of the ceiling and the athleticism, there's potential for him to turn into something like that. It's just going to take some development, some learning. There's going to be a lot of growing pains, but maybe a team like the Steelers with a great defense could live with that.
And a coach that has a history of taking guys and developing them for years. So as much as I'm not a fan of the coach down there and down at the shores of the Three Rivers, I am a fan of that. He has developed guys before. Now, granted, that guy was Aaron Rodgers, but hopefully, if they end up taking Green, that's someone that they can turn into a starter. Because it's hard not to fall in love with the ceiling on a guy like that who's that athletic and has had moments with his arm as well. That's the type of guy that you really hope can pan out to be more than what he's projected to be.
It looks like our first pick is in for the night as the San Francisco 49ers. We're on the clock to start the second round after trading out of the first round last night. An early story today to start the second round was that there were a multitude of teams looking to trade up: the Browns, Dolphins, Saints, Jaguars amongst those teams. And some were looking to call the 49ers for this pick number 33, but they did not find a trade package enticing enough to move out of it. And you still have that edge need for them with Nick Bosa constantly dealing with injury down in San Francisco. Do they go here with a guy like Zion Young from Missouri to help that edge threat and help their defense get a little bit better? And they had a solid offseason too, adding Mike Evans, Osa Odigizua, just to name a few guys.
Yeah, and I wouldn't rule out someone like Denzel Boston here with them not moving. He's obviously kind of been the talk of the town as the guy that didn't get picked in the round one that a lot of people thought, like, yeah, they brought in Mike Evans, but I think they're self-aware enough to realize he's not the forever guy. And if you're going to get Evans in the system, Boston, he's not Mike Evans, but I think he can kind of slot into a very similar role here. But let's see where they go. Oh, Andy Lee making the pick.
Pitt alum.
Browns legend.
I think he's a Pitt alum, Andy, right? He's a punter, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he's from Pitt. That's why he's doing. A lot of the guys making these picks, or a bunch of them are Pitt alum.
Yeah, Pitt alum just didn't resonate with. I didn't know what you were saying.
Remember, Pitt's the university.
I thought you were saying
PGH
Paddlewood first.
or
I'm like, what did I
Pittsburgh
miss?
is the city, right? You never refer to who they get.
Ooh.
Pardon?
Dejon Stribling, wide receiver out of Ole Miss. So not Denzel Boston, as Boston continues to slide to a lot of us. Had him go in the first round last night.
Brandon, SP, I had the same reaction as you just a moment ago when I saw that pick. Yes, it's a wide receiver. It's a different type of wide receiver than Mike Evans, so it is sort of a complementary piece. However, that's my 26th ranked wide receiver in this class. Mind you, the guy we're talking about, Boston, is number 4 for me. Where does number 26 in the wide receivers fall on my overall big board? Prospect number 214. To start off and come in at pick 33, the first pick of the second round, I am scratching my head right now. This is a guy that I think would have been on the board at least in round 3, maybe even in round 4. So I'm really confused by this, but clearly the 49ers must have really liked Stribling.
Yeah, GM John Lynch is standing up. He's happy. Seems like they got their guy in Stribling. And, I mentioned just a moment ago that Denzel Boston is continuing to slide. Is Cole or SP, did you guys see anything that, intended for Boston to slide this far that, teams could have seen this as an issue?
It seemed like some experts were souring on him towards the end, and I feel like that was more coming from public opinion than it was draft analytics opinion. So again, I feel like there's something we're not seeing. I don't have any solid explanation for it. Especially a guy like Stribling. I only did a top 150. As Cole, you could also imagine he's not in there. I don't have him ranked. I did not really watch much Stribling film. I moved on fairly quickly. So this feels like John Lynch just wildly overthinking this. Yeah, I don't know. And the Boston slide, I cannot tell you. But obviously this is something where the Niners apparently just had their guy, so I don't think it was ever going to be Boston. I don't know how the hell you don't trade out of that pick, though.
This is an organization that thinks they're smarter than everyone else.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, everyone that they've hit on, past 10 years it feels like, or everyone they draft feels like they hit on, hasn't been that lately. Pitt legend James Conner, again, 2 pick guys in a row. I'm telling you, this is going to be the theme for tonight.
Really?
Yes, the greatest running back of all time, James Conner.
Not Ray Lewis?
No, not Ray. Number 36 for the Steelers, Ray Lewis, a.k.a. the bus.
James Conner added a new running back mate last night as Jeremiah Love went number 3. And now they go Chase Basantis here, the guard out of Texas A&M, to get some interior O-line help.
And Marvel, I really like that pick there for the Cardinals. I think last night I was still scratching my head a little bit about Jeremiah Love. I mean, he's a great talent, but I didn't really see as big of a need there for them compared to some other position groups because of them having Trey Benson and brought in Tyler Algier, and they have James Conner. So as long as players stay healthy in that room, they have a lot of running back talent. Now, you add a guard here who's one of the best guards in this class. He is the number 3 guard for me. My number 3 overall interior offensive lineman as I combine the guards and the centers together. I only have, of who's available, Emmanuel Pregnons is still available on the board, but I felt like Chase Basantis was going to go towards the tail end of the first round. He didn't. So right at the beginning of the second, they get him. They needed the interior offensive line help. I think that's a huge get for the Cardinals. It should at least help whoever's the quarterback is, whether that's Brissett or Minshew, to maybe stay upright, but also trying to clear out some rushing lanes for Love and the rest of the plethora of running backs.
Don, we got our first lineman off the board on night 2. What do you like about Basantis?
Yeah, this is a clear-cut move where there's going to be a lot of running and a lot of running backs on the field, right? They drafted Jeremiah Love, then they just got a guard who's a people mover when it comes to the run game, right? Your guards, those are primarily they control the depth of the pass threat, right? They control the depth, and then they control how far that front's moving, and then get into the second level, controlling that double team when it comes to the run game as well. It is showing that their goal is to run the ball, right? They have 4 running backs that they can use, right? And they have, 3 of them are pretty darn good. So, especially 2 of them. But it's pretty clear what they want to do with that pick. They're going to run the ball down your throat, and what are you going to do about it? I hope that's what they do, because that's the message they're sending. And if that happens, I might have to bring out my Larry Fitzgerald jersey and start rooting for the Cardinals, because that's going to be a fun offense to watch for me, at least, if they're running the ball down people's throats with that big guard they just got, and with Love, Conner, and who else in that running game. I think it'll be a lot of fun. Now, not everyone else might like it, but boy, you put James Conner at fullback, put him in motion a little bit. Whoo!
I'm going to be the one to poo-poo it a little bit. Emmanuel Pregnon, I have ranked above him. Based on what you're saying, Dom, which, again, running the ball seems like it's going to be a big emphasis, the one spot where I wasn't super comfortable with Basantis was just his raw, consistent power to kind of clog up that run game, or to open up the run game, I should say. So, again, nitpicky, great offensive guard that they got there. Wow, I sound like a complete nerd. Offensive guard. Wow. Anyway, Bills are picking.
And the Bills, like we mentioned earlier, Cole, they traded 3 times last night. Kept going back a couple picks, and then finally just got out of the first round completely.
To just picking where
they did not want to make a pick, but they need defense, and the main needs for them, I view it as cornerback, linebacker, and edge. Would think it's going to be defense here.
Maybe we see Jermod McCoy, the cornerback out of Tennessee, finally come off the board here to the Bills. That'd be a guy that I'd be looking for the Browns to add.
Maybe Denzel Boston.
And there's your edge with T.J. Parker out of Clemson. ACC represent.
And the Bills need an edge rusher, and that's one of the things where last year I wasn't overly impressed with the defense in general, but their pass rush. I didn't think they got after the quarterback as much as I would have liked. They had Joey Bosa on the roster, and when Joey Bosa's healthy, he's an impact player, but at the same time, I think Bosa is at the point of his career where Joey Bosa doesn't necessarily get the same spotlight that he used to get. I think he's had enough injuries. I think he's slowed down enough to where he's not quite as dominant. Now you look at this team and it's like they need some young, fresh edge rushers to get after the quarterback. I think Parker here is a guy who should be able to help them from that standpoint. I still have Cassius Howell, or Mason Thomas above him of guys who are still available. TJ Parker was my 6th edge rusher, but like I said, a really good prospect here. I think that our Mason Thomas would have been the perfect fit for them schematically, but Parker's still going to make an impact for the Bills.
You saw his defensive tackle teammate, blanking on his name, Peter
Peter
Woods,
Woods,
get
yeah.
taken late in the first round last night. Now we see another Clemson guy and TJ Parker go to the Bills. And Cole, as you mentioned, Joey Bosa was going to be kind of my main standpoint right there, as it looks like we have a trade as the Raiders are trading out of their pick number 36 to the Houston Texans, who in recent years they've been really aggressive in trading up, whether that be back into the first round or second or third round. The Texans now, they're 12-5 last year, even with C.J. Stroud's struggles at quarterback. Won the division, lost to the divisional round of the playoffs. The Texans, if they can continue to kind of upgrade C.J. Stroud, get him out of that sophomore slump that he had, and kind of get him back to that rookie season C.J. Stroud that we all saw and setting records and everything. And this could be a really, really good team that can make a deep playoff run.
Yeah, I'm just interested to see where they're going here. Part of me thought maybe they were going to double dip on offensive line, but we've kind of hit the tackle drop off where Caden Proctor was my lowest, or was the lowest on my board that's gone. He was at 49 for me. Next is Caleb Tiernan at 75. And then, of course, they went Keelan Rutledge last night, if I'm remembering correctly. So I don't think it makes a lot of sense to like, maybe Pregnon I could see somebody trading up for, because, again, I think we're close to hitting that guard drop-off. Receiver, again, we talk about there being some depth there, but I don't necessarily see them going that route. Running backs, again, we've kind of hit the cliff. Maybe someone to shore up that defense. Again, a lot of corner talent still left on the board there, some linebacker talent. So a lot of different directions the Texans can go. I really don't have a good beat on this.
SP, if it were me, I think I'd be thinking defense here for the Texans, either defensive tackle or linebacker. My 2 top prospects still available on my big board. I had at number 11 overall, Caden McDonald, the nose tackle from Ohio State, who's there at the draft, was not selected last night, should have gone in the first round.
And was asked to come back, by the way.
Yes,
personally.
Absolutely. So I think Caden McDonald could be in play. I also have C.J. Allen, the linebacker of Georgia, at number 17 overall for me. He is a really good linebacker who I think would offer some physicality in the middle of that defense. They're already a really solid defense, but that's just adding another great piece to what's already a good position group. So I'm with you where offensive line would make a lot of sense, but I think we are hitting that point of a little bit of a drop-off. I'm higher on Caleb Tiernan than you are, but I don't think he's the perfect fit now for them schematically, because I think there's a chance he might get kicked into guard wherever he goes to. So, like I said, McDonald or Allen would be great here if you're the Texans.
Yeah, McDonald, I like that fit quite a bit. Actually, I had them as a Peter Woods spot, and personally, I thought Woods might actually slip out of the first round if he didn't go to that system there in Houston. So definitely a position I could still see them shoring up. So I guess if I'm leaning anywhere, maybe defensive tackle. Done.
Is running back a need for them? They lost Joe Mixon.
There's,
Sort
yes.
Who else do they have?
They have Woody Marks and they have Nick Chubb.
They
they
need
brought
a
in
running
David
back.
Montgomery.
Oh, David Montgomery.
That's right. Thank you. I knew he left, but I can't remember where. Okay, thank you, Cole.
Yeah, some people are higher on Jonah Coleman here. Maybe this is not a spot for a running back. I would not imagine.
But I was thinking, I'm like, who's going to be running the ball there with Joe Mixon? Where'd Joe Mixon go?
Has he gone anywhere, or is he just?
I don't know. He kind of just disappeared last year off the face of the earth
with no explanation. That whole thing was incredibly bizarre. I'll try to look that up as they are getting ready to finally announce this pick.
I will say I expect the Texans to take a running back at some point in this draft. I just don't think it's going to be here, and I don't think they need to trade up.
Yeah, I'm trying to look now with the whole Joe Mixon situation. I don't think he's been picked up by anybody.
No, he's
yet.
a free agent.
That hat is awesome.
Who is that, Dom? Oh, he's a Houston guy, so you don't know.
Not a Pitt legend?
He might be. I don't know. I got to see his name. I have no idea.
Billy Miller.
Probably not, since he's a Reebok jersey on. That era of Pitt wasn't very kind, so he probably didn't go to Pitt.
Well, Cole nailed it. Caden McDonald.
Another Ohio State player off the board, the defensive tackle, the nose tackle, big man Caden McDonald, as we mentioned, invited back for night 2 since he was not picked last night. Cole, this is your guy. What is Caden McDonald going to bring to the Texans?
I mean, he's a massive human being, but he's actually pretty athletic for his size. So he's going to be able to plug the hole, stop the run, and he's a guy who can take up 2 blockers and clear out space for his linebackers behind him who are blitzing. I think there's a lot of value with him. The one thing McDonald's not really going to give you is a natural pass rush threat. He's not going to get a lot of sacks, but he's going to occupy the linemen in front of him. He's going to help out his teammates, and man, he makes it tough to run on him in the middle, and he is so stout in goal-to-go situations. Ohio State just was relentless and kept getting goal line stand after goal line stand the last 2 years. The biggest reason for that is that man right there walking up to the stage, getting the hat, and was there for night 2. Should have gone in night 1. I think the Vikings made a big mistake not taking him and taking Caleb Banks of Florida. I think that was a big miss for them. And here the Texans, they capitalize it to start night 2.
Yeah, let's talk about that real quick, because there was a lot of chaos, I feel like, happening when Caleb Banks went last night. Caden McDonald, also my number 1 defensive tackle on the board. So I do agree with you, but I understand why Banks was picked, because he has the most upside and is probably the most talented defensive tackle in this class. Problem is, when you are a 350-pound-plus behemoth and you're already having multiple foot injury issues, that scares the hell out of me. Like, I will gladly let someone else take the risk at that point. Normally, like, I'm not scared off from injuries if it's a one-off thing, but specifically there when, like, your very base, your feet, are already causing you issues, when you are that massive of a person and you rely so much on your power, I'd rather take the sure thing in Caden McDonald.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Brandon, SP, this is the type of guy that we need to show some film on, that's for sure, because
We're playing it.
Absolutely, because he's so explosive in the middle, and like I said, he makes it hard for any team to run, which I think is a good thing in that division, right? You're going up against Jonathan Taylor. I expect that the Jaguars, they're going to take a running back here at some point in this draft. They're a little bit thin. Really, there are some thinner rooms in that division with the Titans and the Jaguars at the moment. However, I mean, if you can make some of those other teams a little more one-dimensional, it's only going to help the Texans, who are already tough.
Yeah, cool. One thing I really like about him is that he is a pure shade technique, right? If you don't know what that means, he's usually on the outside shoulder of the center, but he can also bump out and play a 3 tech as well. He's not afraid to get his hands dirty and take up those double teams, which is crucial for a shade, right? Able to turn his rear into the guard and absorb all that contact, and he's not moving anywhere, making it easy for his linebackers to pick their spots and get downfield and stop the rushing attack from the opposition. He is the type of shade where, back in the day you have like your Vince Wilforks where he couldn't really move. All he could do was absorb whatever was being thrown at him. But this is a guy that can also make a play too. He can throw a blocker off of him. He can throw a hand down, snag the jersey down on a pass rush. He has good hands. He has the ability to not just take up the blocks, but also to capitalize on that and make a play as well. Almost similar, I know he's more of a defensive end, but body type. Cam Hayward for the Steelers, former Ohio State Buckeye, right? He's a guy like, you think he just absorbs blocks, but no, he also makes plays himself. This is a kid I think that can kind of have that same impact for the Texans.
And you can see how much this means to him. I'm understanding why the story came out about Goodell personally welcoming him back, wanting to go out on that stage and hug him. He's so emotional right now after getting picked by the Texans. Just kind of letting it all out there. I mean, high character guy.
Speaking of Cam
very
Hayward,
excited for this guy.
I didn't even know he was out there, by the way, when I made that comment.
I don't know if he was. I think he came out.
Yeah, he heard me. Big play, big play, hey.
Love that for McDonald. One of the better landing spots he could have ended up in for sure.
It's going to be a great spot for Caden McDonald and for the Texans to continue to improve on that defense. And, Tom, yeah, you called it. The 2 former Buckeyes, the 2 former defensive linemen Buckeyes, greeting each other on stage. It's a great feeling for McDonald. But as a Browns fan, we saw last year with Mason Graham. We see these young D tackles, and Cole, you mentioned that he's not going to give you a whole lot of sacks, but that's not necessarily what you need out of a defensive tackle, especially early in their career. They're more of those guys who try to get them to stop the run or just kind of absorb that inside contact.
And he doesn't necessarily, real quick, Cole, he doesn't necessarily have to make the impact himself, but he controls the depth, right? Those guards, they control how much of the depth that pocket has. He can destroy that, and they have great pass rushers on the outside, make their job a little bit easier, because when that depth goes, right, when there's nowhere for that quarterback to step up, they step out and around right into one of those pass rushers. Sorry, Cole, you can go ahead.
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, on the outside of him, he's going to have Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter. I mean, so one of the better pass rush duos in the entire NFL at this point. So just a really impressive front four that they're going to be putting out there consistently.
And one of the potential first-round talents taken off the board now here in the second round as well, in the cornerback from Tennessee, Colton Hood.
SP, I'll let you start. I think we both have some thoughts on this one.
Yeah, Colton Hood, let me see exactly where I have him. I had his teammate obviously much higher. Jermod McCoy, again, is my 5th overall prospect, and I understand why he's being shied away from because he did not play at all in 2024. But I feel like we're talking ourselves into the same trap we fell into with Will Johnson last year, where because people didn't see him play a lot as last year, they kind of forgot about his talent or didn't want to risk it. I mean, hell, we saw that with even Jamar Chase to an extent, where he didn't play his last year at all, and he ended up sliding whatever it was, 7 or 8 when he got picked. He's good. He's solid, but for a guy that everyone's talking about as a potential first-round talent, I see this guy get blown by way too often. And he doesn't quite have the recovery speed even at the college level to make up for a lot of those mistakes. Again, he's got the instincts to where he can kind of get to where he needs to be and get away with it a decent amount. But at the next level, man, he is going to get eaten alive by some of these faster wide receivers.
Yeah, because when I look at it, I see Mansour Delane, Jermod McCoy, Avion Terrell. I view all those guys as they have the potential to be number 1 corners on their team, or really good cornerback twos. Chris Johnson kind of fell in that mix for me as well, and D'Angelo Pons has the versatility where I think he could be a really good nickel as well. So Colton Hood, though, I'm more of like, he's a cornerback 2, maybe even a cornerback 3 in my opinion. He was my 6th corner in this class. Good player, but I think there were better players on the board for the Giants. Of course, Arvell Reese wasn't necessarily exactly a need, but they got a great player last night in him. So they're trying to address the defense, but I think they could have gotten even stronger corner here in the second round.
And the Raiders pick for number 38 is now in. They're walking up to the podium now, but last night, obviously, with the number 1 overall pick, taking Fernando Mendoza in the offseason, getting the top center available in Tyler Linderbaum, getting Clint Kubiak, the offensive guru, as their new head coach. Here, similar to the Brown situation, depleted wide receiver room. This is maybe where we could see the Denzel Boston slide stop.
Possibly. Don't rule out Elijah Surratt either if we want to just get like a safety valve and someone that Fernando Mendoza's used to. Las Vegas has been very prescriptive about making sure that this transition is as comfortable as possible for Mendoza.
They're making their pre-pick
Albert
announcements.
Breer is like tweeting like 3 picks ahead of this.
Yeah, I mean, some of these guys can get ahead, but for dramatic effect.
Yeah, I'm not going to reveal it. Yeah, I'm not going to reveal it.
Oh, okay.
Traydon Stukes, safety from Arizona, taken by the Raiders at pick 38.
Well, and SP and I were talking about this, and we were texting the other day because we're actually on pretty similar pages with Stukes. He and I both have him ranked lower as a cornerback, not a safety. He has a lot of ball skills. There's a lot of rawness in his game. He's a more of a raw prospect than I would personally like. I think when teams look at him, they think, okay, he's a safety that we can sit deep, and he could be, a ball hawk type of guy. Honestly, my opinion on Stukes is if you were trying to put him at safety, it's like when the Browns were lining up Jabril Peppers in Lake Erie, like 30 yards back. There looked like the Browns had 10 players on defense.
I forgot that
Jabril
they did
Peppers
that,
was
Cole.
so far back because you couldn't even see him on the TV screen. I could see the Raiders doing that with Stukes and hoping that he's able to come up, fly up, get some interceptions, and make some plays. personally, I think he's better as a corner. He was my 13th ranked corner. He offers some position versatility, but this feels like a very Raiders pick to me. It doesn't move the needle for me personally on their defense.
Yeah, I'm pretty much right there with you. His biggest issue is his coverage awareness, which is why I feel like people like him better as a safety than a corner, because when you play him further back, he's got more time to react and kind of use that raw speed and get after the ball. But I don't think he quite has the chops and the instincts for the next level. But let's the Browns are up, guys. Browns are up. Picks
as a
in.
departure, and it just
boy.
made me laugh.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Notable departures.
Yeah,
Kevin
it's Kevin
Stefanski.
Stefanski. Yeah, I did notice that.
They had the same thing up for the Raiders. On the draft, they
Yeah, we
had,
got a
your
commercial.
key additions, your key departures. For the Raiders, they had Pete Carroll as one of their key departures, and now I guess for the
What
Browns.
a weird hiring, by the way.
That was one of those, I feel like, hey, Geno Smith has shown flashes. If he has another good year, we bring in Pete Carroll. If they do good, they do good.
But
If not,
that
they're both out.
team was always not going to be good.
They're the Raiders. I don't know what.
Pete Carroll magic, baby. He's just going to fix it, which he did not. But let's talk about the Browns, though, a little bit, guys. The pick is in. We got a commercial break, so we've got a little bit of time to think about this. The corner board is still fairly wide open, and the one that we were talking about slipping is still there in Denzel Boston. I mean, Cole, start with you, man. Like, is this a spot where you're comfortable double dipping, or do you want to go somewhere else?
I would double dip. Personally, I would feel better about the Concepcion pick last night
Same.
if they then get a big wide receiver, an Elijah Surratt, a Denzel Boston, somebody who's a big receiver with really reliable hands, maybe doesn't get the best separation, but I don't really need the separation. I need somebody, if you throw the ball in their area, they're going to go up, they're going to get it. They don't really have the drop issues consistently. And I think if you get a receiver like that who can truly operate as the number one, Judy is functional as a wide receiver too. He actually has had good moments in his career as a wide receiver too. But when that pressure's on and he's got the best corner shadowing him all game, he just absolutely crumbles. So I think if you can take that pressure off of his shoulders, Concepcion can line up in the slot mostly, and then maybe the attention's going elsewhere, then he can leak out for some big plays. Then you're actually headed in the right direction. And then that should push Cedric Tillman down to wide receiver number 4, bring him in for some spot reps, but then also in the red zone. So you have guys on opposite sides who can go up, climb the ladder for a jump ball. I would double up here. I could see them going a few different directions, going defense and taking a corner as well, or taking a safety. But personally, I want to see wide receiver here because of what is still on the board. And I think there would be a huge slam dunk to start round 2, which would give me some confidence if they take a guy like Boston, for example.
Now, I'm 100% in agreement with you right there, Cole. I was having a conversation with my buddy earlier today. I said, if Denzel Boston is there at 39, you take Denzel Boston. You get the 2 wide receivers. You get a speed guy. Like you said, it makes you a little bit more comfortable about that Concepcion pick. When you get a guy like potentially Denzel Boston or Elijah Surratt, sure hands, bigger receiver, a guy that could potentially be a number 1 for you in the future, kind of knock Jerry Jeudy down that board so you don't have to rely on him as much if he's still on your
Or
team.
at all, preferably not.
Exactly that. And, if he wasn't here, you had your option. I liked Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, the safety out of Toledo. I like Jermod McCoy. The other cornerback is Joe Hayden is coming up to announce the Browns pick. A Browns legend. Yes, he did play for the Steelers, but a Browns legend.
It confuses me that he claims the Browns so much when.
But we only drafted him.
Yeah, but they got rid of him.
Steelers legend.
I mean,
Dang.
Pitt
Cole.
legend.
he wish he went to Pitt.
Pitt alum.
Where'd he go?
Florida.
Florida.
Denzel
There
Boston.
it is, baby. Let's go.
That's a great pick.
We did it.
You love to see that. The Browns listened to us, Cole. They did it. They got their big receiver.
Yeah,
Public
they got
pressure.
I think what happened is they got slammed by Keon Sports last night.
They
They
knew.
know that they
Our
got slammed by
cronies
Keon
went
Sports
after
last
him.
night.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, we got to make up for it. If Denzel Boston's there at 39, we got
We
to
sent
do
Puka after him.
it."
Which one?
Honestly, guys, I can't say enough good things about this because I thought you were going to have to take Denzel Boston at 24 and you get him at 39. Does this perfectly change everything? Do I still have concerns about the Fano switch from right tackle to left tackle. There are still concerns, right? Because they're trying to make that switch. Do I have potentially some concerns still about the drops from Concepcion? I do. However, if he's now operating out of the slot, doesn't have to try to be a wide receiver one, wide receiver two, and he can really just be your punt returner and then your big play guy in the slot, and then you have now Denzel Boston really taking a lot of the attention, and he doesn't need the separation. He's a contested catch master. I love this for the Cleveland Browns. They just got a whole lot better at wide receiver, and that just changed the entire dynamic from last night to tonight.
Yeah, now you have potentially a quarterback situation where you're still uncertain. I mean, we may see Deshaun Watson start at some points. Is Shador going to – anything is possible. It's the Cleveland Browns.
All right, Kevin
but
Gardner, calm down.
more likely than not, we see Shador Sanders, and so far it sounds like he's had a good offseason. But now you give him Casey Concepcion, you give him Denzel Boston. He has Harold Fannin from last season, Quinshad Judkins and Dylan Sampson, your two running backs from last season. I mean, this Browns offense is shaping up to be a young, talented offense.
I don't care that Kansas City's picking. I have 12 minutes of Denzel Boston highlights. We were watching 12 minutes of Denzel Boston highlights.
You have 12 minutes of it?
Absolutely.
What is wrong with you?
Where do you want to start?
You better have 12 minutes of Kyle Lewis when he gets drafted.
I don't think he has 12 minutes of reliable film.
He 100% does. He has at least an hour and a half.
As Kansas City is picking, by the way, there are other teams in this draft.
My favorite name in the entire draft is now off the board. R. Mason Thomas, the edge out of Oklahoma.
Wait, his name's R?
R. Mason.
The letter R. Mason
So wait,
Thomas.
is like Mason his middle name?
No.
So his
So
name's
it is
R.
quite
Mason.
literally, I guess he has a bunch of family with R names, and his mom wanted him to have an R name, but liked Mason. So she literally named him R. Space Mason. I am not joking.
I love college
That's
football.
hilarious.
I love
as
it.
funny as the name is, though, this is a great pick for the Kansas City Chiefs. They desperately need an edge rusher, and they got a nasty one here. I have a lot of confidence in our Mason Thomas's ability to help in the run game, but he gets in the backfield. He's explosive. He's going to get after quarterbacks. He was my 40th overall prospect, taken at pick 40, spot on there. He's a great value pick. I thought he might even sneak into the end of the first round. So I think there's a lot of good things coming out of this pick for the Kansas City Chiefs. You have now Karlaftis and our Mason Thomas opposite sides.
And let's
of
not
each
forget
other.
Peter Woods, who they got last night, too, where, again, very few spots where I was comfortable projecting him to live up to his full potential. I mean, Kansas City with Spagnuolo, definitely one of them. So now adding R. Mason Thomas as well. Like, as you said, draft is shaping up really well for Kansas City. They're maneuvering it well. Other than, again, jumping up for Mansour Delane is still a little bit of a question mark, but he is a good fit. I just don't think they needed to spend the extra assets to get him.
Why does Andy
Andy
Reid look
Reid's
like
in a
he's
Hawaiian
going? He looks like he's a he's going to be like on a yacht. What? Margaritaville looks like he's going to Margaritaville.
Margaritaville cruise.
Yeah. He looks like a big Jimmy Buffett fan.
Andy Reid is always just kind of one of those guys you don't really care what he's wearing. Kind of like Bill Belichick. He's, wearing whatever you want on the sideline or in the draft room,
Oh, Denver traded their pick, guys. It was
They
going to be
did.
Denver. It's now Cincinnati.
So two teams that didn't have a pick last night involved in a trade. Cincinnati jumps up to pick number 41. Mel Kiper on the ESPN considering their top needs cornerback, wide receiver, and O-line. Let's see where the Bengals go.
I do like the Bengal stripes on their uniforms, I will say. It's so unique to me. I just love it.
And it's Cassius Howell, the edge out of Texas A&M. So we see back-to-back edge rushers come off the board here early in the second round.
Yeah, and that's back-to-back talented edge rushers. Guys that were my top two available edge rushers still on the board, and then back-to-back they go. I think when the R. Mason Thomas pick happens, the Cincinnati Bengals are like, yeah, we got to come up if we want an edge rusher because, in my opinion, this is where the fall-off happens. I know Zion Young is highly valued. I don't look at him as explosive a guy as Cassius Howell and R. Mason Thomas. So beyond that, you start hitting a group that they just don't have the same explosiveness in getting in the backfield. And with Trey Hendrickson now gone from the Cincinnati Bengals, I don't think Shamar Stewart's necessarily – he was never a great edge rusher. I thought he was more of a run stopper for a defensive end. You need a pass rusher, and that's what Cassius Howe is.
And you mentioned that they lost Trey Hendrickson. An interesting offseason for the Bengals. They refused to re-sign Trey Hendrickson because of the money, and then they go ahead and trade their 10th overall pick to the New York Giants for Dexter Lawrence and extend him just 1 year, but for $28 million. That was an interesting offseason, but now they get their edge replacement right here in Cassius Howell. SP, how do you feel about Howell?
Again, I like that they moved up to do this. They got to shore up defense in any way they can. If they had not traded that first pick for Lawrence, I mean, this is exactly what they would have been doing, just trying to stack bodies. Again, Stewart has been not. Was it Turner or Stewart? I'm getting the names mixed up. Their first round pick from last year.
Shamar Stewart.
Shamar Stewart, thank you. Was somebody that it looked like he had all the physical tools in the world and just didn't have the production to go along with it. Things got off to a rocky start. Maybe he still develops into something with a full off season with the team. I don't know. But as mentioned, like I've got Zion Young still kind of sitting here as an edge rusher that someone's going to take a chance on, but this is where the drop-off is about to happen, so I expect him to go soon as well, as the New Orleans Saints have just made their pick.
They go with more defense coming off the board, and it's the defensive tackle out of Georgia, Christian Miller, a guy that was higher on a lot of draft boards that I saw, but he goes here at 42 to the New Orleans Saints.
Well, he was my number 4 defensive tackle in this class. Only of the guys available, I had Lee Hunter. He's number 2, and Christian Miller at number 4. And so Hunter's still on the board. Miller just taken. I felt like they need more of a true nose tackle. I don't necessarily have the strong belief that he is more of that true nose tackle. I would have preferred probably seeing him in a 4-3 base defense. However, I think he should plug the hole in the middle. I think he should still be a good asset for them. And they got one of the best defensive tackles in this class. So I still think it's a good pick for them. And it's hard to really go wrong with a Georgia defender in recent history as well.
And we saw their NFC South counterpart, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, last night. They ended the slide for Reuben Bain Jr. Now we see the Saints go with some interior D-line help. So the NFC South continuing to bolster up on the defensive line, trying to make it harder for the opposing offensive lines to kind of hold them and not be able to protect their quarterback as much.
You know, guys, the Miami Dolphins on the clock right now, by the way. It's the hopeless Miami Dolphins. You know, we kind of talked, we really laid into the Dolphins yesterday talking about how they got rid of all their pieces and they're in really bad shape and they don't have a whole lot. They took Proctor, who, guy that, you know, multiple of us are maybe thinking that there's bust potential, and Dom feels pretty strongly about him. But overall, I'm curious to see where the Dolphins are going to go here. So they snagged a corner. They have an offensive tackle. But again, I go down my list of needs. Wide receiver, tight end, interior offensive line, backup quarterback.
It'd be easier to go down the list of things they don't need.
Exactly. They have so many needs. So this is one of those where I have absolutely no idea what the Miami Dolphins are going to do here.
I mean, they can quite literally go anywhere. Maybe we're ruling out quarterback and running back just because of like who's available at this point and the fact that you just paid Malik Willis all that money. But otherwise, you could quite literally like go in and double dip on offensive line even. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they stag another corner because, I mean, who's their top guy? Like, Chris Johnson's already the best corner on that team. Who's next? Storm Duck? Like, they really have nothing working over there, and there's still a lot of talent left. And as a team that's still a few years away, I'll go ahead and pound the table for Jamad McCoy again here as somebody you can kind of get in there and start working up. Avion Terrell, D'Angelo Pons, really any of these guys. The more I'm talking about it, I don't hate them double dipping on corner. Safety's open. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren's still sitting there. He's
Here's
my
the
18th
question.
prospect. Go ahead.
Who's going to catch the ball?
Well, that's the other issue
Caden
is
Proctor.
yeah,
We talked about the screenplays, right?
No,
Eli Stowers maybe.
are you still going on your point, Brandon? I don't
No,
want
go
to
ahead,
interrupt you. I will say the things that do concern me about Proctor are he needs to slim down, right? Just a little bit, right? He's a little too big. He needs to slim down if he wants to remain at tackle. He has to be quick enough. He's athletic enough. Has to slim down. Here's the problem. Nick Saban said during a draft show that Proctor is not a guy that is going to
Not a
work out
self-starter.
in motive. He's not a self-starter, which means he's not working on his game unless he's in the facility, which is a concern. If he can find a way to not do that, and I think in the pro environment it might be a little easier for him rather than college. I'm hoping that's the case. He could end up being a world eater. And if he can lose some weight too, if he can dial those two things in, he can be really good. But if those two things, if his weight goes out of control and he does not become a self-starter, he's going to have a real short stint in this league. And I think it's either he's going to be a world beater or he is going to be out of the league in 4 years. I don't think there's an in-between with him.
Dom, just to clarify, did you say world beater or world eater?
So I said world eater the first time, and I said world beater the second time.
Okay.
That's
Gotcha.
mean.
No, I did call him a world eater, and then I realized what I said, and then I made it to world beater.
I
Whatever.
had to check, with the 360-pound reference type of deal. So
Yeah, no, again, he needs to slim down a little bit, probably get to 330 or somewhere below, just so we can move a little bit quicker. Again, no one's bull rushing that man anytime soon, but he needs to slim down so he can move quicker. But
Yeah.
he doesn't lack the athletic ability, that's for sure.
No, athletic ability isn't the issue, but it was just consistency, I think, because of that weight, because of that conditioning. I mean, you go and watch the tape, it's a lot of just peaks and valleys where, sometimes he looks like the most dominant offensive lineman out on the field, and other times he looks like he's giving up on the play. And I don't think it's any coincidence either that Alabama team, that was the worst running Alabama team in history that I can remember, at least. They could not get anything going, and part of that, I think, came from the inconsistency on that offensive line. As Dolphins now getting ready, they just flashed your Bob McCoy's stats up on the screen.
I don't know if that's the pick, but real
Let's see.
quick, I could see them kind of dipping into that second level of wide receivers with your Zachariah Branches, your Jeremy Bernards from Alabama, your Elijah Surratts, potentially for get some pass catchers. And it's Jacob Rodriguez, the linebacker out of Texas Tech, who a lot of people thought he was the best player in college football last year, regardless of position. Him and David Bailey wreaking havoc on that Texas Tech Red Raiders defense. Our first linebacker in the second round is off the board.
Well, and I still have C.J. Allen. I have Anthony Hill Jr. both still available. I had them above Jacob Rodriguez, but he was my fifth linebacker here in this class, and he is my 41st overall prospect. Jacob Rodriguez was fantastic last year for Texas Tech, of course. Now it helps when his defensive line in front of him was also nasty. There's going to be a ton of those names called, throughout this weekend. We've already had one, David Bailey, who's had his name called, and I expect the rest of that entire, front four of the starting group to all be picked between tonight and tomorrow. So the thing is, though, with Jacob Rodriguez, he's great getting sideline to sideline. I think he's very competent in coverage. He's not as big of a linebacker as Allen and Hill, who I mentioned. I think that the Dolphins could have benefited from that physicality. I think he's a really good player, but is he a dominant, hard hitter? He's not as much of an enforcer. I think he's more of a finesse type of linebacker, but still a good pickup. The Dolphins, they just need some help on that side of the football.
And real quick, we do have another trade already here in the second round. The Detroit Lions are moving up to pick number 44, originally held by the New York Jets. And the Lions are sending pick 50 and 128 to the Jets in exchange for pick number 44.
Yeah, and just going off of Cole's point a little bit more, Jacob Rodriguez, the pick's already in. Jacob Rodriguez has kind of everything you want in a linebacker. He's got range, he's tough as hell, and he can diagnose the play. The thing is his size. That's what's going to get harped on, but answered a lot of questions, I think, during the testing period, the off-season period. And, yeah, I understand why he was taken here. I still had a couple guys above him, but I figured at least one team was going to absolutely fall in
Was
love
Kyle
with
Lewis
Jacob
above him?
Rodriguez.
Should have been.
Not.
Calvin Johnson, the Detroit Lions wide receiver legend, my favorite wide receiver growing up, makes their selection for the Lions, and it's Derek Moore.
Wow, in round
The
2.
edge from the University of Michigan, the first Wolverine off the board in 2026.
Well, and I don't understand why teams trade up sometimes for the guys they trade up for.
100%.
I understand trying to go get your guy, but this is my 15th edge rusher. I mean, I still think Zion Young, Romello Height, Danny Dennis Sutton, Caden Curry, Joshua Josephs. I can run down the list. I have still many guys ahead of Derek Moore. And so I think that you could have waited. There was no need to come up to 44. Yes, they need an edge rusher opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. It's funny that Hutchinson's a Michigan guy and they're bringing in another Michigan guy, so they're keeping him close to home. But at the same time, I just think if he's there for you closer to where you're picking, maybe. But why are we trading up for somebody who I'm confident would have been there later, rather than this soon?
Yeah, I had him at 85 overall. He's my 17th ranked pass rusher. I actually had him mocked to the Browns in my last mock draft in round 3 as a halfway decent running mate to Myles Garrett. I liked his versatility in that he's not someone you're going to be afraid to kind of drop back into coverage, move him around the field, use him as a little bit of a chess piece if you have a good pass rusher on the other side of him, which they do in Aiden Hutchinson. So schematically, I like what they're doing, but again, trading up really didn't make a lot of sense here. What I feel like happened is that they panicked when they saw this edge rush start to kind of, hit at the beginning of this round. And I think Michigan's getting a little bit of a defensive line biased where, like, Ohio State, and I'm not saying this is a bias, but like Ohio State produces wide receivers. Just take one and you'll be fine. Defensive linemen from Michigan tend to be decent NFL players. I feel like maybe he's getting bumped up boards a little bit too much for that. We'll see. I think he'll be a fine player, but very, very early.
And we have the Baltimore Ravens with their pick in 8-9 last season, below 500 for the first time since 2021. John Harbaugh obviously out of the building. They added Trey Hendrickson after their Max Crosby trade fell through. And last night with the 14th overall, they picked Vega Owani.
There you go.
I got it this time. I messed it up twice last night, but got it this time. Where do you see the Ravens going? Do they try to go center here? That's probably a bit of a reach. Do they go tight end, receiver? Do they continue to maybe they go with an edge in Zion Young, keep the selections of the edges and the D tackles and the linebackers coming off the board?
Can I go off the beaten path real quick?
Go for it.
So, do any of you guys that follow soccer, do you guys follow Dortmund's Twitter page? They will not stop tweeting about the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Because of the colors or what?
Yeah, so they have a partnership. So so the Steelers are the official football team of Dortmund, and Dortmund is the official football team of the Steelers. You can look that up. They have a partnership. It's really weird. And so the Dortmund posted a thing. It was like a picture of their mascot, and it was like in the second pick of the draft. And or not the second. It was like in the first round, the Steelers select, and it was like their mascot, and it was Drewski in a Ravens jersey, and it was stiff arming him. And then today, it was some guy holding a German terrible towel, and it's like, I like what you've done with the place, and it's like a really weird caption, but it's like it's a really weird relationship. Is it just because they both wear black and yellow?
I don't know. Mia San Mia, go Bayern Munich. I have nothing to really add here.
Just thought it was weird, man.
Yeah. Anyway,
Well,
we went way off the beaten path. You did not disappoint, Dom. Thank you.
Anyway,
that is such a
let's-
random pairing. I'll give you that. Go ahead, Cole.
we'll stay in the division and we'll go back to the Baltimore Ravens, though. And I like that Marvel brought up interior offensive line still for the Ravens, because even though they made the pick of getting a guard last night, I still do think center should probably be the play here. Connor Liu, this isn't that far out of the range of where I have the Auburn center. He's my 46th overall prospect. I still think that's very reasonable taking him right now. He's my 4th overall interior offensive lineman. I feel confident that he is the best center in this class. If I'm the Ravens, I just go ahead. I hit center right now. I have my entire interior part of my offensive line completely wrapped up, and I feel confident in protecting Lamar Jackson in the middle, which would, I think, be a huge win for the Baltimore Ravens, as there's so many good edge rushers and so many good interior defensive linemen as well in their division.
And I'll throw this over to you, Dom. The one thing that's interesting to me, Connor Liu's 58 for me, so we're kind of around that same range. Emmanuel Pregnon is the last, or my highest ranked guard that's still on there, but there's at least been some talks about the ability to kick him in the center. I mean, again, I don't know how deep you've gotten into him, but do you see any kind of ability for Basantas to maybe fill that need for Baltimore?
Switching to center is extremely hard for a guard. Your split's a little bit narrow, right? Or your stance is a little bit narrow. The step is different because you're stepping and snapping at the same time. If you don't grow up doing that, you can't do it, right? So I'm sure when it comes to blocking an assignment that he would be fair at center position, but calling out reads, right? Can you call out the odd? Can you call out the stacked or the under, the over? Is it a 4-4? Is it a 4-3? Is it 5 down, 3 down? Are the linebackers stacked or are they odd? He has to know all that and break it down quick. He also has to call out, the safety positioning, the linebacker positioning. Where's the mic? Where's the ID? Where's the plus? Where's the minus? That's a hard adjustment to make going into the NFL. So preferably for a guy like that, keeping up a guard, something he's done his whole life, keeping his identification simple. So he probably can make some of the jumps, but it's hard to make that all at once to be a starter in your first year.
So, Dom, why is Jerome Bettis making the Ravens pick right now?
Who even is that?
I deserve that.
It's Mark Ingram.
Mark Ingram.
Oh, Jerome Bettis.
Yeah, Ray Lewis.
That's Ray
is
Lewis.
making
What
the
are you
Steelers
talking
pick.
about?
That's the. Why are we talking about Maryland? Hey,
Ryan Shazier?
We're in Pennsylvania. Hey, talk about Maryland. Congrats to the girls getting flag football and all that. What about Pennsylvania getting flag football? Come on. Scott Clary, referee, driving from North Allegheny right now, reffing girls flag football. I said softball earlier, I think.
He said football. You got it.
Yeah.
That's starting to
Talk
spread in
about
Ohio,
Maryland.
too, which I'd love to see.
Yeah, it's
Very
a
much
sanctioned
so.
sport. Yeah.
And the Ravens go with the edge from Missouri and Zion Young. No interior O-line help extra for the Ravens as they go defense to pair alongside Trey Hendrickson on the opposite side in Zion Young.
Honestly, I don't know how I feel about the fit. I think he's a really good player stopping the run and getting in the backfield. I think there's plenty of speed, but the interesting thing for him here is that they just brought in Trey Hendrickson. I'm not surprised in some ways that the Baltimore Ravens would take an edge rusher because they love getting an edge rusher. But I have plenty of other needs for them. Looking at this, I still have center, wide receiver. They could use another tackle, tight end, a backup running back, defensive tackle. I think there are so many other spots that they could go with, and I think they're picking a spot that, sure, it's another explosive guy, but as good as Zion Young is, why wouldn't you address some of the other needs? Because you do have Trey Hendrickson, and I still think that they have enough in that edge rusher
Well,
room. But
this feels like, and they do have Mike Green still, who didn't quite develop last year, but was a prospect I was very high on. With Zion Young, this feels like a very Ravens-esque pick where a lot of people thought he was going to go round one. He's continued to slip. They stayed exactly where they were, and now they're getting a guy that they're probably maybe seeing they had a higher value on that they expected at this point. And they're going to hope that they've just kind of, not outsmarted, but or taken advantage of a mistake that the rest of the teams are making here. It's not like Trey Hendrickson is a particularly young player, as great as he is. So I could see them, pairing him on side. It doesn't put all the pressure on Young right away. He can take some time to develop because he is still inconsistent. So I don't hate it. I do agree they were more pressing needs, but again, wide receiver I think thinning out a little bit on the board. Eli Stowers isn't going to be for everybody at the tight end position. So I kind of understand how we ended up getting here.
The Buccaneers.
Did anyone, Cole and Brent, I feel like you two might be able to relate to this. Do you guys ever have that kids book of Rondé Barber and Tiki Barber?
I had
kids
that book.
Did you have that book?
I did.
Oh.
And they go with Josiah Trotter. Back-to-back Mizzou players off the board. The linebacker out of Mizzou heads to Tampa Bay.
One thing that's interesting that we have to consider with these Missouri guys, they did play in an active construction zone all last year.
They did.
Yeah.
So they're
Blue-collar workers right there in
potentially,
Missouri. Yeah.
they're used to that noise. And they probably weren't actively working while they were playing games, but you never know. Vanderbilt and Mizzou, with all their construction they had going on.
Fun fact: Alabama is 1-1 in active construction zones. Their loss came to Vanderbilt 2 years ago while the scoreboard was hanging off of 2 cranes. Sorry, Cool. Go ahead. What do you think about this pick?
Well, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they do need defensive help. We talked about last night, and I loved that Reuben Baines slid to them at pick 15, and they were able to capitalize on that, get a good edge rusher. They need a good linebacker. That was another need that I had marked for them. So their top 3 needs: corner, edge rusher, linebacker. They've hit 2 of them. Trotter is a player who has NFL bloodlines. You hear that last name, Trotter, you absolutely know that. Yeah, his father spent plenty of time in the NFL. That I believe it's his brother was the Clemson prospect who we were just talking about here in the last year.
Cole, I'm going to cut you off real quickly. We do have a trade. Indianapolis has traded pick number 47 to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are also receiving 249 from the Colts for picks number 53, 135, and 237.
So just to wrap up the point again, Trotter's a good pick for them. It's exactly what the Buccaneers need. And here we go. We can go to Dom to talk about how excited he is that the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the clock. And now we're interested where are the Steelers going to go because they're trading up to try to snag somebody.
I don't know about Jens, but the Pittsburgh Steelers are making some moves down at North Shore. I'll tell you what. Look how many people are there. I can't believe how many. They broke the attendance record for night 1 and night 2, by the way. Look how many, look. It's insane. Just to stand there and hear names get called.
Reminiscent of the Cavs championship parade when streets were lined and all you saw were little dots and it was just a bunch of people.
Insane.
I am interested in where they are going here. They want offensive line round 1. I'm looking through my
They need a wide
board.
receiver.
Yeah, wide receiver would make sense. Maybe an Elijah Surratt.
Oh, John Stallworth.
And I have Ted Hurst pretty high, but I realize he's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Cornerback, too. Again, I think that's where the most talent is still sitting.
And they go wide receiver from Alabama, Jeremy Bernard. Dom will go to you first, the Pittsburgh guy. What are your thoughts on Jeremy Bernard? You're shaking your head a little bit.
No, I'm itching my mouth actually. No, I don't know too much about Jeremy Bernard. I know Cole and Brandon are the ones with the big boards that go all the way down to 477. But they lost Calvin Austin, who was a speed threat that got open deep at times, but they never really utilized him. They have Metcalf, who not the best deep threat in the world. Despite being a big body, he doesn't high point the ball. He doesn't get up and get it. And then they got Pittman, right? So you have 2 guys. Who's that third going to be?
Roman Wilson.
Roman Wilson has not played in 3 years. I don't know what's going on with that young man. But they don't really have anyone, and they're not getting any more help in the free agency. Bernard can't go wrong with an Alabama wide receiver, so hopefully he's the guy that whoever's throwing the ball, he can be the third option and then really grow going forward as Pittman and Metcalf grow out of that offense.
Dom's absolutely right that wide receiver was one of the top needs for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I actually had them just a few picks after this. Now, they had traded up to come get their guy here. I had them taking Zachariah Branch, the wide receiver from Georgia, who I think is very similar to a guy like Zay Flowers of the Baltimore Ravens. I think that a shifty slot receiver like that would have been a perfect pairing with DK Metcalf, who's big, strong, fast, can stretch the field, and then a big possession receiver like Michael Pittman Jr., who they just brought in from the Indianapolis Colts, who's also on the outside. I would have preferred the fit of Zachariah Branch. Jeremy Bernard, I look at him as he can maybe spend some time in the slot, but I still like him outside a little bit more. Good possession receiver, has decent speed, overall good hands. He might not be the biggest burner of this massive big play threat, but I feel like he was consistently getting open and making catches for Alabama. Good player. Just going to be interested to see how many reps he gets and how that fit actually works with the other receivers that the Steelers have.
So is this someone that you think can complement well with Pittman and Metcalf, or do you think that this is kind of might be interesting to see how he can pair with those two?
I think it's possible. He was my 8th wide receiver prospect. Only Elijah, of who's still available, only Elijah Surratt, Zachariah Branch were above him at this point. So I like Jeremy Bernard a lot. He was my 51st overall prospect. So the value's there. He's a really good player. Good hands. Like I said, he does so many things well. Is he ever going to be elite? I don't think he's ever going to be elite. He's going to be a good complementary piece. I think he can run out of the slot, but he's not your prototypical type of slot receiver. He's more like when a team, and he's not to this caliber, but when a team like the Rams move Puka Nacua inside for some reps, or Cooper Kupp gets moved inside for some reps. Not necessarily natural, but he'll still make some plays from that spot. It may just take some time meshing exactly, but he's going to make an impact. He's going to catch some passes.
Now, you can I can already feel Dom getting ready to roll his eyes at me, but I do want to raise one other issue with Bernard. And he was a little bit lower for me. He was my 11th ranked wide receiver prospect. One of the biggest issues I saw with him is he was not consistent week to week, despite having Ty Simpson throwing in the ball, who was good for a lot of the year. His route running has a tendency to get sloppy, and it's not something that happens in and out of a game. It seems to, again, literally just be week to week. I don't know if that's a preparation thing or what, but if you are not exactly where you need to be and Aaron Rodgers is throwing you the ball, I can see that relationship blowing up fairly quickly. Now, we don't know if Rodgers is coming back, and I'm harping on kind of small things here. I think Bernard's going to be a fine wide receiver, but just a small thing to look out for if those two end up playing on the same field together.
Well, you won't have to worry about Rodgers because you got Howard power.
Will Howard?
Hard power.
Howard.
You got Howard throwing him the ball. Don, Acrisure.
Well, he's going to have Taylon Green, so it's
That's a good point. At
Well,
tight end?
Taylon Green's going to be playing wide receiver and running back for the first few seasons. They're going to go to the Super Bowl. They're going to have an onside kick to start the second half, and they're going to throw a late pick from Will Howard. And then Will Howard's going to sign a really big contract with the Jets. And then Green is going to then go play for quarterback at the Steelers. He's going to be on and off. He's going to want to be mainly a thrower, not a runner. He's going to end up playing for the Ravens. They're going to bring in a guy that was stocking milk cartons at a grocery mall, and then they're going to draft a guy named Big Ben. I don't know if anyone caught along what I was doing. I don't know if anyone caught along what I was doing, but I was literally just retelling the 95 Steelers, or whatever year that was, up to 2004.
Why is
SP,
Arthur
it's
Blank
the Falcons.
Why is Arthur Blank the one in the middle of the war room? I already don't like this.
Do you know the Falcons have the cheapest concession options in the NFL?
Yes, they do. It is family pricing.
Yes.
And they do that for the Hawks as well.
Oh,
which
they
I
own. Do
absolutely love.
they own United?
I don't believe so, but I don't know off the top of my head. I should know. I have a giant Atlanta United flag behind me.
I mean, they play in the same stadium, so why wouldn't they?
Yeah, that's how that works.
I love the logic by Cole. Well, they play in the same stadium. They gotta be owned by the same guy.
Yeah, the stadiums actually own the teams.
Yeah,
Not sure if you knew that.
SP will let you take this one away since
Oh,
it is your
God.
Falcons. New head coach Kevin Stefanski. I know you were in love with him coming to Atlanta.
Yay. Oh, boy. A lot of directions the Falcons can go here. Pass rusher is still very much up in the air. It looks like maybe James Pierce is coming back after they've invested a crap ton.
Hold on.
Michael Turner.
I
made me
have a
think.
Michael
I love
Turner
that.
jersey.
I love that.
I should have brought it.
Loved Michael Turner.
By the way, Arthur Blank owns Atlanta United.
There you go. All right.
Cool logic for the win.
Yeah. No, I should have never have doubted you. And who is it going to be? Avion Terrell, cornerback Clemson. I am more than happy with that. Avion Terrell, I'll just be quick because I got to get the actual name up here. Not a cornerback that's necessarily going to wow you anywhere, but he is someone that is fairly scheme versatile. He's going to be comfortable in man and zone, maybe a little bit undersized, but someone whose name isn't going to get called out a lot for both good and for bad reasons, which I'm fine for with a cornerback. If someone's not, getting a ton of attention, that's a good thing. He's doing his job. He's not going to be someone that goes out and gets you 7 interceptions, 8 interceptions necessarily, but he's going to be a solid second option in there for Atlanta for a very long time now. And correct me if I'm wrong, AJ's his brother, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on top of that, too, you're bringing them back together. AJ, I think, is a little bit more of an aggressive corner. I think they're going to pair up well together. Overall, for having limited picks, I'm very, very happy with how this started for Atlanta.
I somewhat don't know about the brothers playing together on the same team. However, it's a cool story, and that's two good cornerbacks. So you're going to have your best cornerback is a Terrell, and your second best cornerback is a Terrell. So
it's going to be perfect. The people will be confused, right? You're never going to know which one's out there.
How about you run
Don't
them
be able
out
to
with
tell
the
us
same
apart.
number on the field? So see if you can really confuse people. But no, ultimately, he's a really good player. One of the two best corners that was still available on the board, McCoy, who's sliding, and Terrell. I thought he was going to go in the first round. He did not go in the first round. Good value pick for the Falcons for their first one to start this draft, as they were one of the teams that didn't have a pick in the first round. So I like the pick for them. I think for the Falcons that even though I didn't think corner was really one of their primary needs, in my opinion, I still think it helps their defense out, and it's a cool story, which always helps the fan base. When you have some cool stories, it always sells some tickets, moves the needle.
Well, it's a cool story, and it's not a reach doing it either. I do agree there may have been some more pressing needs. I really think Drake London needs a running mate, but I don't love where the wide receiver board is sitting right now, as Minnesota has traded out of their pick, and Carolina, a fellow NFC South team, has now moved in to make a selection. But again, corner, they didn't have a lot outside of Terrell. It had been thinning out quickly, so I like the pick quite a bit here. The Falcons are a little bit of a mess. They could have gone a lot of different directions, but they could have done much worse than corner.
And the full trade real quick is Carolina receiving 49 as well as pick 159 from Minnesota, as Minnesota drops to pick 51, and they also receive 196 from Carolina.
And they've already made the selection. Not up quite yet, but...
You know, I'm going to say I like Arthur Blank.
Oh, I do too. It just worries me when the owner is so prominently displayed in the war room. It reminds me of Jerry Jones, where he has kind of like the throne in the center, and then everyone's around him applauding when a pick gets made. It throws me off a little bit.
We can do what the Steelers owner does while he sits in a corner, withers away.
Yeah.
The Rooneys have been doing
I'm
that
cool
since
with
the 30s.
It's worked for them. They draft pretty well. Carolina, don't be surprised if this is an Eli Stowers spot. All right. Glad everyone agrees.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be tight end here.
I was trying to figure out if that was Jake Delhomme, and it is the Cleveland Browns legend quarterback, one of 75 that played for them since 1998 or 1999. And they go with Lee Hunter, the defensive tackle from Texas Tech. Cole, this is your guy that you had kind of highly rated as well, that you thought was going to go a little bit earlier. What do you like about Lee Hunter?
Well, I think he's an explosive defensive tackle, and I think that's exactly what the Carolina Panthers are looking for. And right now, they're focusing on the trenches. They went offensive tackle in the first round with Monroe Freeling. Now they go defensive tackle and Lee Hunter, and this is a great value pick. The Atlanta Falcons in their division just had a great value pick where that was my 23rd overall prospect. Well, one spot ahead of him is Lee Hunter at number 22. He was my second-ranked defensive tackle, just behind Caden McDonald, who really should have gone on night one, and the Houston Texans got an absolute steal here in the second round. So good value pick for the Carolina Panthers. And talk about this Panthers team really turning things around last year, showing a lot of improvement, and now focusing on the trenches, which I think is a big priority for them this offseason. There's some good things for the Carolina Panthers happening in what's a wide open division.
And this is a Carolina Panthers team who are, one, very young, and two, despite having an 8-9 record last season, winning the NFC South, facing the Rams in the first round of the playoffs, taking them down to the wire. This is a team, if they get the right pieces together, they're giving Bryce Young a little bit of more protection. This is a team that could really take off next season.
Yeah, I like the pick. I was a little bit lower on Lee Hunter than Cole was, but still I have him at 55, so it's not like this is a reach by any means. I think he's a little bit limited just in his actual pass rush arsenal that hasn't developed too much. But he's good in the run game. He's going to be able to clog things up, and the pressure's not really going to be on him because he's going to be next to Derek Brown. So the defense just continues to get stronger. If Bryce Young can continue to progress, as you guys said, division's wide open. Like I still don't understand how Carolina managed to win that division last year. I thought they might be better than people expected, but I once again futilely picked the Falcons to win that division, and I feel like every time they have the talent, and they just don't do it. So I like what they're building. They definitely have some spots they need to address. I would have thought they would have gotten a pass catcher of some kind at this point. I was surprised when they passed on Lemon with him still sitting on the board last round. So look for them to maybe address that in round 3. But building a nice little team, starting off in the trenches, and then hopefully grabbing some skill players later on.
We have another pick that is in. We are currently in a commercial, so not coming up yet. But the Jets at pick number 50 have their pick in. They still have C.J. Allen available, Jay-Sean Barham if they want to go edge, the other edge from Michigan. A couple guys, those are Mount Kuiper's best available at linebacker. But do you think they go back to defense here, or they stay on the offensive side of things, as they've already had a bunch of picks here in this draft?
If it were me, I'd go defense here, and I had them opening up the second round, excluding that trade that happened where they went into the beginning of the first round. It's why the 49ers kicked off the night tonight instead of the Jets, and that's because the Jets went up to go get Omar Cooper Jr. But in the second round, I had them starting that in my mock draft with Anthony Hill Jr., the linebacker from Texas. I think that would be a really good fit. I think C.J. Allen could be a potentially good player for them at linebacker as well. So I think both of those two would be the ideal picks right now. But if there's any team that's likely to take a quarterback, the Jets are certainly one of those few teams that we need to keep on our radar with quarterback. I still think it's probably early. Again, I think this is the most likely place where Drew Aller goes, but I don't think he's going to come off the board yet. But like we talked about last night, if there was any team that was going to take him in the beginning part of this second round and at some point, earlier tonight in night 2, it's probably the Jets. So Northeast Ohio, something to pay attention to. However, if it were me, I'd go either Allen or Hill. And I think that would be smart for the Jets with needing a middle linebacker.
Interesting to me as well, it's well documented the Jets have been stacking draft assets. They're picking a lot next year. They've already taken 3 guys. They still have 6 picks left in this draft. So they still kind of have control to move around the board however they want, which kind of leads me to believe this will not be quarterback. I get the idea of wanting to go get your guy out of the ones that are left, but I feel like with all the other picks they have, if they start to feel like someone's closing in on an Aller or someone else that they might want as a developmental guy, they can kind of make the move and jump up. But let's see what happens because we're getting ready to make the pick. Who do we got? Curtis Martin.
Pitt. The guy that
Thank
announced Kansas City's pick was also a Pitt alum as well.
That Billy guy? Or who was that? No, that Billy guy was Houston.
Yeah,
That
not Billy.
guy.
Yeah, Curtis Martin was part of that 10-year run where Pitt was one of the best teams in the country every year in the 80s. And then in 91, when John Gruden was on staff, they started off 6-0, and then they fell apart because they lost to Notre Dame by like 40, and then they haven't been the same since. Make the pick, Kurt.
They go D'Angelo Pons, the cornerback out of Indiana. Jermod McCoy still on the board. They like Pons more. D'Angelo Pons, you have a new home. You're going to New York. 5'8", 182 pounds, a little bit smaller, but at corner, size isn't as big of a deal as the wide receiver position on the other side of the ball.
I really like this pick for the New York Jets. Pons, my 5th ranked corner in this class, 37th ranked prospect overall. Great value here. Even though he is a smaller corner, I think there's a lot of versatility. He can play some on the outside because he offers speed. He's aggressive. He's not afraid to be physical. And I think there's a lot of nickel value with him as well with that size, but he's not afraid to get downhill and make the tackle and stick his nose in there. And that's what I like about Pons is he's got this fearless approach to how he plays the game. I think it's a great value pick for the New York Jets. And they're really, with all these assets that they have, making sure they're making the right picks to help strengthen their team. And even though I would have preferred them going Arvell Reese instead of David Bailey. You look across the board and what they have, things are starting to shape up for them. And like I said, I think this Pons pick, they now have 2 Indiana guys that they've selected, one on offense, one on defense. They're going for some winners, some national champions, and the Jets hoping to turn the page a little bit at this point.
Now, if anyone's going to overcome the size issues, it's going to be someone like D'Angelo Pons because this dude is the definition of having that dog in him, as the kids would say. I still feel like I would have preferred the Jets, who were definitely lacking in the secondary, did not have a single interception last year. I'm not sure if you guys have heard that stat before. I would have rather them gone with a true X that they can kind of, rely on, even if they're not necessarily the most talented, like a Keontae Scott I would have rather have. Chris Johnson's gone. I still had him in there. Jermod McCoy, I will continue to kind of pound the drum for. But that said, they still got an absolutely excellent player in Pons. Again, the size is going to be the limitation. He's not going to shy away from going up for those contested interceptions and breakups, but I don't necessarily think he's going to win a lot of those. And that aggressiveness may get him in trouble at points, but hard to fault the pick when this kid's got an insane amount of heart and he's got the talent to go along with it.
And some real quick in-season news with all the expansion that the NFL is doing with going overseas and going to these different countries to play their games. They have a new game this year in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. They have the Baltimore Ravens playing the Dallas Cowboys on September 27th.
Pitt alum Brian O'Neill scored 2 touchdowns for the University of Pittsburgh.
That's not a lot.
And the Vikings go with Jake Golday, the
was a
linebacker out of Cincinnati. They pass up on Allen, and they pass up on Hill as well, and they go with Golday out of Cincinnati.
Well, different type of linebacker. We C.J. Allen, Anthony Hill Jr. They're both going to be more of your, Mike or Will type of linebackers. Again, so many teams play these 2 linebacker sets at this point on the field, and both of those guys are that. Golday is naturally an edge rusher. He's going to be the perfect edge rusher in a 3-4 base defense. He's going to stand up on ball. And he offers some explosiveness for the Vikings. They already have a few good edge rushers, so they just added some more depth to that room. You're going to have a pretty strong rotation. And they added Caleb Banks on the inside. Again, I was a little critical of the pick because I think they could have done better and taken a Caden McDonald. However, if Caleb Banks really performs well and Golday and the rest of that rotation get things going, they're going to try to generate some pressure, and they're going to try to wreak some havoc in the backfield, which they're going to need when they have Jared Goff and Jahmyr Gibbs and Caleb Williams and Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs and some of those quarterback and running back combos to deal with in their division.
And the Packers have their first pick of the draft tonight at 52. Their pick is in. Earlier today, they just extended Jaden Reed, a wide receiver that they have in their room. See if they could go a little bit of a different situation. They went with Matthew Golden last year to try to improve that receiver room. Golden, underwhelming rookie season for him last year. The Packers are one of those teams that it seems like they're just only a couple pieces away. They could be an elite team and really make a deep playoff run, but they're just not quite there yet. Cole, what do you think that they should really do here to try to take that next step?
I think either capitalize on the cornerback value that's on the board because they do need a corner, or go center. I think there's a big need for the Green Bay Packers right now in the interior of that offensive line, and center is the gaping hole, in my opinion. Connor Lew, center from Auburn, as well as, I believe, Jake Slaughter, the center from Florida. Again, those are the 2 top guys for me that are on the board right now, and I think either would be a good pick. I would go Connor Lew if it were me, and if I were the Packers.
Yeah, they could definitely go center. They can go interior offensive. The Packers, I never like mocking to, and I was happy that they didn't have a first-round pick this year because it feels like more than other franchises, they have such a kind of like stringent set of prerequisites as far as height, weight, speed, like measurables when it comes to guys that they specifically want. Admittedly, I am not completely in tune with those needs at all times, or those wants, I should say. I will keep going back to corner, even with D'Angelo Pons and Avion Terrell coming off the board. I still have some fairly highly rated guys here, specifically in Jermod McCoy, Keontae Scott. After that, we see a little bit of a drop-off, in my opinion, but could easily see them going that route. I do think we're finally done getting second-round wide receivers. I know they did get rid of Romeo Dobbs, but they're really hoping that they can get something out of Matthew Golden after, as you alluded to, Marvel, a little bit of a disappointing rookie season. I think he's still got something in there. And there's really not a true X surefire guy I think they can go up and get, which they are still lacking and seems like they always are going to. So if I'm going any direction, I think I'm going corner for Green Bay, all that said.
Yeah, I'd like your thought on the center position, Cole, because Elton Jenkins, now a Cleveland Brown. They got their center after Ethan Pocic walked in free agency, and they decided not to re-sign Pocic. And they got their guy in Elton Jenkins they took away from Green Bay in free agency. So I like the thought of giving Jordan Love that security that he has at center, his guy that he could really get with and then build that quarterback center relationship, because you hear all these stories about like Jeff Saturday and Peyton Manning, how important it is to have your guy under center that you can really trust, because you have to have a little bit more of just a football relationship in that quarterback center type of relationship.
You'd be closer than you could possibly imagine.
Literally.
Very close, Dom.
Very close. When I was a center, I was best friends with our quarterback.
My choice?
I mean, Brandon, without us being demonetized, his hands were in a very interesting spot
Don't worry, I marked not
majority
made
of
for
my-
kids. We're fine.
for majority of my childhood.
Oh, yeah, let's.
Dom begged his coach to play center.
Coach, please put me there, please. And then they moved
Green
me out
Bay's
to
pick.
tackle.
He's a little too eager. We like the drive. Teammates are a little uncomfortable. I don't know.
Who's making this pick? Kenny Pickett?
Green Bay.
Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett. Pitt legend. Can you imagine if they bring him out for a Steelers pick?
That'd be
He
hilarious.
plays for Carolina, don't he?
Yes.
Once a Panther, always a Panther. Cool.
Just like Baker
That is
Mayfield.
what they say. Keep pounding.
The Packers decide to go with Brandon Cisse, cornerback out of South Carolina. I've been really butchering some of these last names, and I typically pride
It's okay.
myself
You're filling
on that.
in for
but
Vince. You're doing it perfectly.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Brandon Cisse, the cornerback out of South Carolina. So they go to the cornerback room, Brandon, but not with either of the two guys you had up there that are still available. What's Cisse going to bring that you thought maybe Jermon McCoy would have had a better chance of doing?
Yeah, Cisse, again, a fine prospect. He's someone that he's got the size, he's got the build that you want for a cornerback, which is why I think he was a little bit of a riser in some cases. But his footwork is a little bit concerning to me. It's slow. So he's not even necessarily losing to guys that are burners, but he's losing to elite route runners, which, again, once you get to the NFL level, you're going to be facing on a much more consistent basis. So I get how you could fall in love with the tape, the measurables, but I don't necessarily think it's going to translate super well at the next level. He's obviously got a chance. He's my 59th prospect, so I don't think it's a major reach. I still just think there were some better prospects on the board.
Well, and the interesting thing with this is, and I agree, I think the size, I think there's a lot of good intangibles for him. I think there's some sloppiness in his game. He was my 7th corner. So aside from Jermon McCoy, he was the best corner that I had available here. He was my 54th overall prospect. He's a good player, but I think in Green Bay, he's probably going to have to be the number one guy there right now. I think he's better than Carrington Valentine. I think he's better than Keyshawn Nixon. So he's going to have to deal with Justin Jefferson, which is pretty scary that a guy who has some sloppiness in his footwork is going to have to deal with one of the best wide receivers in the NFL at least 2 times a year.
And then Dom is giving 2 big thumbs down to the TV screen as Pat McAfee.
Hey, that's a Pitt legend.
That is a
What are you
West
doing?
Virginia legend.
No, not a Pitt. You know,
Pat
he is a Pitt
McAfee.
legend. He is a Pitt legend.
I know.
Him missing all those field goals.
I know. That's what I'm saying. That's why they brought him
13-9.
out.
No, you can't call yourself a Pittsburgh guy and then go to West Virginia. You can't. If you go to Penn State, fine. At least you stay in the state. He left us for the mountains. Get out of here.
West Virginia.
Screw you. That song's not even about West Virginia. It's about Western Virginia.
I'm not going to lie. I'm getting sick of seeing Pat McAfee's
Hey,
face
get off
everywhere.
my screen. He's everywhere.
I love Pat McAfee. I will always be a fan of Pat McAfee.
Well, that makes one of us.
If Pat McAfee has 1 million fans, I am one of them.
Dude,
If he has 1,000 fans,
make-
I am one of them.
Make
He's
the
got to
pick.
cut his promo, Dom. All right? He's a wrestler. Don't
Not
you know
anymore.
that?
He quit.
Uh-huh.
If Pat McAfee
Sure
has
did.
no fans, I am no longer alive.
Yeah, well. Make the pick.
C.J. Allen, the linebacker out of Georgia, finally comes off the board. A guy that I thought was going to, if not go late first round, early second round, falls here to Indianapolis at pick number 53.
Well, Indianapolis Colts first pick of this draft, and they got a really good one here. All I have to do is give them a hand and clap for them, because congratulations, you just got my third linebacker in this class, and my 17th overall prospect. By far, best value pick that I think was still on the board, in my opinion. Physical guy, going to be tough in the middle of the field against the run, and I think he can provide some pressure up the middle. I think C.J. Allen just offers a stout physicality to his game there in Indianapolis. So I think that is a very good pick, and they did get the best player available at this point. So props to the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, again, other than McCoy, who I've talked about, the C.J. Allen, I still had a first-round grade on, at least in this draft. He was my 21st overall prospect, my second linebacker, only because I did not have Arvell Reese listed as one. He would have been third in that specific scenario. But again, you're getting a physical guy, a downhill runner, someone that's going to be able to really muck things up in the run game. Maybe the best, purely run-stopping linebacker in the draft. His lateral quickness is a little iffy at points, but I think that's something that can kind of develop over time. It's not something that really is going to keep me from picking him, and again, especially at the spot that they got him at. I mean, for not picking till the second round, Cole, like you said, very good job staying patient as Indy and then getting a very, very good talent all the way down here at pick 53.
I have a question for you guys. If you guys were a first-round pick, would you want to be at the draft or have a draft party at home?
I always leaned more towards the draft party. I want as many people around me as I can.
Brandon?
I go back and forth because this is such a cool experience. When else are you going to be in an environment that is like this? But that said, I want to be around the people that kind of help me get there.
Sure.
It's going to be a party. I ain't going to be humble about it, but I think I'd rather stay back.
Cool.
I'm more of a homebody, and if I were to stay at home, I don't think I'd necessarily have that giant of a party.
You have the Fernando Mendoza special?
I may take the opportunity just to go there because it's a unique experience to be able to walk up on stage and,
I'm with you. Cool.
Get the hat or get the jersey. So I would take advantage probably of the opportunity because it only happens once.
And we've got a tight end off the board here. It's Vanderbilt's Eli Stowers going to Philly. You are an EAGLES Eagle. Eli Stowers' new home in Philadelphia.
Well, they're getting receivers, that's for sure. They got a tight end here, and they snagged Mekhi Lemon right out of the clutches of the Pittsburgh Steelers last night. So, who would have been a great fit with the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I was talking about a true slot, and that is Mekhi Lemon. He is a high-volume receiver in the slot. So, just kind of funny that he was on the phone with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Was going to be picked by them. And then he's getting a call from the Philadelphia Eagles that they traded up.
That whole thing was awkward, where you have Omar telling them, hey, we're going to draft you here, yada, yada. Here's Coach Tomlin. He's like, wait, I'm getting a call from Philadelphia. And they're like, oh, they just jumped us. It's such an awkward situation. Because you go from high-fiving, being like, we got our guy, to we're going to draft this other guy that it seemed like they just threw a dart at the wall, and that's who they picked. Though I will say I'm growing more and more on the guy on the pick the Steelers made, by the way.
And we do have another trade. The New England Patriots have traded up to pick 55 with the Chargers, and the Chargers will receive number 63, 131, and 202 from the Patriots as the Patriots continue to be a little aggressive here.
We're approaching it. So pick 57, which is Chicago. That person who's picked 57 is getting a lifetime supply of Heinz ketchup.
Because of number 57 on the Heinz ketchup logo bottle.
Yes. No, not yet. We're still 2 picks away. But I just think it's funny that, of course, when it's at Pittsburgh, that's when someone's going to get rewarded with ketchup, which I would love, by the way. That would be a blessing.
I'm a massive ketchup fan myself. Dom, I called into 92.3 the one time while you were working at night talking about weird food combos.
I remember this.
I'm a big ketchup guy.
Yeah,
I would be very happy with a lifetime supply of Heinz ketchup.
I made fun of you on air.
You did.
As exciting as this is, did we mention the fact that there was a trade?
I did.
Yes.
I did, yes.
Brandon,
I walked down and we're just talking about ketchup.
We have a captain.
All right, I'm
And
just
he's
making
sailing
sure.
the ship.
All right.
Right, Cole?
Relax.
That's true. Marvel's doing a great job sailing
He
this
is.
ship.
Appreciate it, guys. Appreciate it.
And I am trying to pull that ship down.
And if it
Come
were
hell or
Vince,
high
you
watermelon.
would manage to do it.
Oh,
you
for
have
sure.
done it many times before.
Yeah, Cole. I think you do love this about me because I mean when it was just me and you announcing, then when Brandon was when SP was
Brandon
added
came
to
along
the
and
mix.
ruined everything.
Well, I was able to get you off course from time to time, Cole. Not too often, but I think I'm the only person you've announced with that's been able to get you off the course more than I have.
Sure,
Yeah.
you are the best at being able to do that because you always have these references or can take these left turns that no one really sees coming. So props to you. It makes it fun. It's great when there are slower moments too in games or we have breaks.
Yeah.
So you're fantastic as a color commentator. Not just because of your football knowledge, but because of that aspect. But it is tough sometimes to stay on track. And our guy Vince, who I'm sure I would hope he's listening to us at this point, it is hilarious getting the two of you guys together.
Yeah, because he just wants to go
he goes
off with
the
me.
rails.
Yeah,
Yes.
he has no interest in keeping the train on the tracks. I try to be like that Philadelphia color commentator for baseball, where he says the most outrageous outrageous things. Kruk.
John Kruk.
Yeah, he's like, if me and you had a kid, we'd name him that. And then the play-by-play announcer just loses it. Or when he yells at a kid, and the kid almost falls off the club section.
That's one of my favorite
That's what I would
videos.
do. It's hilarious. I'm
You
gonna
ever
scare
eat a
this
football,
kid.
Jim?
Anyways, we're still coming back from commercial break here, and the Patriots pick is in at number 55.
Once the third
Anyways.
round starts, we are fully off the rails here, boys.
Anyways, let's talk about Mike Vrabel for a minute.
Ugh.
I'm just kidding.
Speaking of off the rails,
He had to be with his family today.
no,
he-
that's
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
No.
Yeah,
He's
gotta
oh,
be
yeah,
here
today's
for
Friday.
2 or
Today's
3,
Friday.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm thinking today's Saturday. It's
Lift that up for the dog.
He'll start therapy
on.
tomorrow.
Come on.
Daisy the dog
Daisy,
trying to
come on.
enter.
Imagining how that goes. This is your wife. Good. This is Diana. Bad.
Well, that's interesting.
Oh, we're doing a salute to the armed forces, it looks like, from New England.
Hey, where's
Like
this
that.
dog like to get pet?
Pretty much everybody. Just be careful around the ears.
Around the ears.
She's,
Oh,
she's incredibly deaf.
I was gonna scratch your ears. I'm not going to.
This
now.
is Daisy, everyone. Dom's new
Daisy.
best friend.
I love this dog.
She's incredibly sweet. She's just old and a little decrepit at this point in her
Oh,
life.
no,
But
you old dog. Who do you think the Patriots are gonna pick?
oh, who's it gonna be?
Go ahead. Here. Daisy, come here.
She doesn't talk much.
Daisy not as interested in the draft, more just interested in getting her itches scratched.
Dom, you have to do sign language.
Yeah, she's deaf. You can actually teach a dog sign language. It is possible. She didn't lose her hearing until later in her life, so we were a little late to that boat. But I know somebody with a deaf dog that they quite literally taught like basic signs to. It's pretty incredible. Anyway, the Patriots. Still waiting on this pick.
Yeah, and they'll probably make a boring Patriots pick. Trade up, not move the needle, still
Well,
win football games.
We might play some Dom Clary highlights here.
And they go with Gabe Jackus, the edge out of Illinois. Did I get that last name right?
Yakis.
Jackus. Another edge off the board, as we've seen a lot of that in the second round with the edge, the linebacker, the defensive tackles, the defensive side of the ball, getting a lot of focus here on night 2.
I mean, he's a fine edge rusher, but I had him one spot above Derek Moore, who I was knocking the Lions earlier. Why are we taking him here in the second round? I feel the same way about Yakis. I think Romello Height, Danny Dennis Sutton, Caden Curry, Joshua Josephs, LT Overton wouldn't really be a scheme fit. Yakis is a better scheme fit for them than Overton would be, but I still think there are about 4 or 5 guys who I would have preferred for the Patriots over Yakis, but again, the Patriots are in a pretty good spot where their roster's in good shape. They had a good season last year. They lost in the Super Bowl. I think they're going to be talented once again. So just a matter of if they stay healthy and things don't fall off the train tracks with too many distractions. But ultimately, they don't have a lot that they have to do. Yakis just adds a little bit of rotation depth there at edge.
And we do have another trade to announce. It is not for pick number 56, but later in the third round, it is pick number 98 going to the Minnesota Vikings in exchange for Jonathan Grenard. The Pro Bowl linebacker is being sent to Philadelphia, and Grenard and the Eagles are reaching an agreement on a 4-year, $100 million extension that includes $50 million guaranteed per his agent, Drew Rosenhaus.
Fucking Howie.
So
And
Howie
the
Roseman
again.
once again.
Jake Golday pick makes a whole lot more sense even for the Vikings now because they got Golday earlier. Now Grenard is going to the Eagles, so they needed the edge rusher. I thought it was just going to be a rotation piece. Now Golday likely going to be started.
The Jacksonville Jaguars here primed to make their first pick of the draft here at number 56. Paul Peluzny, the 2013 Pro Bowl selection. Not going to lie to you, I don't remember that name. They go with Nate Borkacher, the tight end from Texas A&M.
What?
That is
Awful pick.
not a guy I would have had going even close to this point in the draft. And Brandon and Cole, off of your guys' reaction, I think you guys are in the same boat as me.
Okay, I ranked 20 tight ends. He's not on the list.
I don't even know who this is.
Cue the Dom Clary highlights.
I was going to say, this is the first player I don't have. I pulled roughly 110 prospects. I don't
what?
have Nate Orvin Redenbacher, whatever this guy's name is.
Redenbacher.
And he had,
Wow.
what, 150 yards last season, it said?
198 receiving yards, 19 catches, and 3 touchdowns. Definitely a very head-scratching move here for the Jaguars at pick number 56.
Great job, Jaguars. You did need a tight end. It was one of your top 3 needs. But, I mean, only Kenyon Sadiq was off the board. You could have gotten Max Clare, Joe Royer,
Eli Stowers
Dallin
was off,
Bentley.
too.
We can run down the list. And, yeah, Stowers came off the board, so it's been 2 tight ends. But still, you had your pick of the litter, basically, and you picked a run.
Cole, when do you think Kyle Lewis can get off the board here?
He doesn't care about Kyle Lewis.
No, I don't
Bob.
think you heard me. Cole, did you hear me there?
Yeah, I had to think about that for a second. You're talking about the Pittsburgh linebacker.
Yeah, the
Correct,
Pittsburgh
yeah.
linebacker that's being projected as a safety.
Yeah, he's a small linebacker. I like him better at linebacker, actually. You know, I think that even though he's 220 pounds, I think he moves well. He's my 9th linebacker prospect. I actually value him quite high. He has that versatility. It's just going to be a matter of scheme fit. I could see him not working in the league because he doesn't go with the right team that he fits in well, or they do try to convert him to safety. I personally think if he's with a team where he can be a rotation guy, not a starter at linebacker, and be especially on third down and passing situations, he can come in. I see a lot of potential for him. I think he could be good enough to go as early here as the 3rd round, but I think because of his size, I think there's a good chance he's going to be sometime on day 3, like a 5th or 6th round pick.
Yeah, I know that on Mel's top-ranked guys, he was actually 7th, and I thought it was pretty early for him to be there. I did think that he has the talent to be a day 2 pick, but unfortunately, I think his size will push him to day 3. But I am hoping that he gets picked today, because if so, I will freak out. I'm a huge fan of him in what he did at the University of Pitt.
I think there's at least a chance. Like, I'm looking at the linebacker board, and it's starting to thin out a little bit. I think
he's
Anthony Hill
third.
Jr.
They have him as a DB.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, if you do get a team that values him as an undersized linebacker, which is not completely unprecedented, we just saw Jacob Rodriguez go a little bit ago. I think he might be able to sneak in somewhere in round 3. As I mentioned, Anthony Hill Jr. and Keyshawn Elliott, the only 2 that I could would have ahead of him from a linebacker standpoint. The thing is with linebackers, if you are undersized, you have to be special somewhere else. You either have to have the instincts of a Luke Kuechly, the athleticism of a Jacob Rodriguez. I don't necessarily see anything that elite with Kyle Lewis, but he's got great speed. He's aggressive. He's not going to lose out on a lot of plays. Again, that size is just going to be what hurts him in the long run.
I'll tell you what. I've seen a lot of Pitt players, and he was by far one of the most influential Pitt defensive players I've ever seen, right behind, Cansey and Aaron Donald. I mean, he was that good. Oh, the cat just jumped on me. He was that good.
This is Duck, everyone.
Duck, you're a cat. he was a ball hawk. He was a menace in the backfield when they would send him. It also helped that Pitt had one of the best, if not the best, linebacker core in the ACC last year with Raheem Biles and Lovelace. Lovelace will be a selection next year. Biles transferred out to Texas. He'll be a pick too. He might be a day one pick next year if he continues to rise. But again, Lewis was helped out a lot by a really good. What is happening?
He just likes people.
Just have a seat.
He's
I guess.
dumb.
He was helped out with a pretty good defensive line before it got hurt, and then a really good linebacker core as well. But I think he could be a really good, impactful player at the NFL. Again, I think Cole had it right where it's all about scheme fit. These commercials are killing me, man. Just make the pick.
Yeah, they had a big Heinz ketchup commercial here for pick number 57 just a little bit ago.
Been playing that all day.
Dom, you mentioned it too. Pick number 57 because of Heinz ketchup. That number 57 on that logo gets a lifetime supply of Heinz ketchup from the people at Heinz.
Such a random thing because at pick 57, like I know nothing is guaranteed, but like you're getting a pretty decent contract. I feel like you could buy all the ketchup that you would necessarily want, but
yeah, and this is we're here with the team in the Bears who picked Dylan Thieneman in the first round. We saw Colston Loveland, their young tight end, take off in the second half of last season. They have their quarterback in Caleb Williams. They have a good running back core right now in Monungai and Swift. They got Kobe Bryant in the offseason. They got Devin Bush at linebacker in the offseason. The Bears are one of the teams that have had a very good offseason, in my opinion. So here it's just like, hey, whoever you want, I feel like, in my opinion, you could kind of go out and take.
I think they should either pick a kicker or a punter just so they can get the lifetime supply of ketchup here.
change someone's life.
Me and SP were talking about the kicker and punter projections earlier today, and the number one kicker was ranked as what, the 300
some odd yeah,
82nd.
ESPN goes all the way down to like 450 on their big board. I think the kicker from Hawaii was like one of the last ranked prospects in there. Which I like that dude a lot. He's the one that like taught himself.
Jimbo Covert, Pitt legend Jimbo Covert. Come on, Jimbo.
You're scaring the cat.
Sorry. Sorry, duck.
Wait till you meet Goose. It's going to blow your mind.
The band?
Yes.
And with pick number 57, the lucky man who will win a lifetime supply of Heinz ketchup. And boy, am I jealous, not because you're an NFL player, but because you're getting ketchup for life, for free.
That's why.
We selected, and it is Logan Jones, the center out of Iowa.
Oh, man, a big center from Iowa. That's a man that's going to love a lifetime supply of ketchup. You couldn't ask for a much better guy to pick here. Getting a big burly lineman. Would have loved to, toss a bone here to the special teamers, but they decided to go offensive line and ultimately get a good center in front of Caleb Williams. I think the interesting thing about this, though, is as much as I think that Logan Jones is a good player, and I think he's one of the better centers. He's my third ranked center, my eighth interior offensive lineman. Connor Liu, Jake Slaughter, I still had both of them above Logan Jones. They're still available on the board, so Jones is the first center to be taken. Don't hate the pick for the Bears, but I do think there were a couple better centers, but they addressed the need of interior offensive line, and that is one lucky man getting the Heinz ketchup.
And I'm going to cut you off again here, Cole. We do have another trade as the Cleveland Browns are trading up to pick number 58 with the San Francisco 49ers in the trade. The Browns will also be receiving pick 152, and the 49ers will be receiving picks number 70 and 107. So we talked about it early in the show tonight that there were a bunch of teams looking to trade up. The Browns were one of them, and here they are trading up 12 picks. We still have Jermod McCoy on the board. We still have Emmanuel McNeil-Warren on the board, the safety out of Toledo, as one of the best Browns corners in their history. Joe Hayden is coming up to the podium to announce their selection.
Well, you get Joe Hayden announcing the pick. It's got to be secondary, right?
He announced the first pick, too.
No, it's got to be secondary, right?
It's Elijah
He owns the stadium. He has to own the team.
They go with Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, the
Mac
safety
time, baby.
out of Toledo. Mac Nation or Maction? Stand up.
That's twice you've doubted my logic, SP.
and twice I have been wrong. I am the fool.
So
now-
because of this pick, the last Brown selection will be pick 74.
Really?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, they only have one third-round pick now. This cat is obsessed with me. Cool. What do you think about this pick?
Well, I think this is a very good safety here, and the best value pick at safety. He's my third safety prospect here, and just coming in behind Downs and Thieneman, and both day one guys. McNeil Warren, I had him at 53 overall. I think this is good value selection. They needed to add to that room because you have Grant Delpit, you have Ronnie Hickman, and besides that, there's not a whole lot else. So I don't necessarily know if Emmanuel McNeil Warren's going to start over Ronnie Hickman personally. But I think even if he's the third safety and he's part of the rotation, he's a really good piece to add. But nobody knows the MAC like you know the MAC, Dom.
Yeah, this is a team under the Jason Candle regime that did a really good job, not just developing secondary players, but defenders in general. They had tons of guys over the years that if they were a little bit bigger and had a little bit more reps, they would 100% would have been drafted or given more opportunities, right? But Emmanuel McNeil Warren is a product of this secondary factory out of Toledo, thanks to Coach Jason Candle. And again, this is a secondary that's been hard to throw on since 2016-17 when he took over that program. Though he just left, that's a good selection. He can be one of those guys that we talk about as one of the better MAC players to enter the NFL in recent memory. So it's really nice to see a MAC guy getting taken in the second round and a MAC guy that can make an impact like he can and add to the legacy of Toledo's safeties and cornerbacks in the NFL.
And this is
TBU.
the second straight year now on night 2 that the Browns go with a MAC player. Harold Fannin from Bowling Green last year in the third round.
Can't go wrong.
Looking to pan out pretty well so far. Now a safety in Emmanuel McNeil Warren. And now the Texans are making their pick right now as that Billy guy is back up here at pick 59. The Houston Texans with their second pick of the night.
He may not like Fannin Jr. because Bowling Green beat him his senior year.
And another tight end off the board in Marlon Klein, the tight end from Michigan. Cole, I know we've talked about tight ends a lot, but what do you like about Marlon Klein, if anything?
I'm starting to get a little mad with these tight end picks here at the moment. And Marlon Klein is somebody who I did have ranked, right? Unlike the Jacksonville Jaguars pick, I had Marlon Klein as my 16th tight end, and then he is my 207th overall prospect. Again, I just don't see the value here. It doesn't make sense to me. I obviously some Michigan tight ends have, Colston Loveland showed some value here in his rookie season this past year, but Klein is certainly not a Loveland caliber type of player. But I think aside from having some physicality and some Michigan tight ends, being good players, I don't know how I feel about this because again, I had him in the 200s.
Yeah, and we do have another trade now. The Chicago Bears have traded pick number 60 to the Tennessee Titans as the Bears will receive pick number 69 and pick 144 from Tennessee. SP, what are your thoughts on these tight ends being taken here? That you still have your Max Clairs that are on the board, and these guys that are clearly jumping over these guys.
I'm not even necessarily huge on Max Clair. Like I'm not really big on the tight end board at all at this point, and it feels like again there's a run, so everyone feels like need to go and get their guy. I'm not nearly as low on Klein as Cole is, but he's still my 107th overall prospect. He's going to be fine in the blocking game for you. I think he's a little bit limited as a passer. He doesn't have any kind of physical skill set that really kind of like jumps off the table at you. He's got time to develop. If I remember right, he came from Germany. He hasn't been playing football for a particularly long time, but still not someone that I think you needed to grab here, and maybe could have gotten as low as round 4 or even possibly later than that. But I guess if you feel like you need a tight end, you need a tight end. But Max Clair's still there. Oscar Delp still there, who, again, I'm lower on. But there was definitely some talk that he might be able to go a little higher than he's falling at this point. Again, I don't really understand it. I don't have a good explanation for it. Again, other than maybe we're getting a little bit of Michigan bias, where just because there's been some success at that position in the past coming out of the school, that it's going to happen again. But that's a terrible way to go about things.
Well, in SP, I think they would have benefited from a receiving tight end more so
Yes.
than I look at Klein as a blocking tight end. You have Cade Stover, who's one of the most physical
Take
farm
Max
boy
Clare.
type of blocking tight ends. So it doesn't make that much sense to me. I think you could have brought somebody in who would be when Dalton Schultz goes at some point. He could be that Dalton Schultz type of replacement, but he's just not that.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Still off. What position are we thinking here for the Titans?
There's so many that they could go with, honestly. Corner and linebacker are the two that I have marked as the two biggest needs right now. Again, we keep talking about the same guy who's sliding at quarterback over and over and over
He's got to
again.
go at some point.
McCoy's going to go at some point, but I also think Anthony Hill Jr. would seem like a home run here, a kind of a slam dunk pick for the Tennessee Titans value-wise later in the second round.
A little home run, slam dunk, touchdown pass.
Yep. Hole in one.
Hole in one.
Other analogies.
Bullseye.
Yahtzee?
Yeah, I was just going to say Yahtzee. That's
Bingo?
amazing. Bingo.
Checkmate.
What's? We keep going.
Bazinga.
But Wahoo.
Bang.
Bang!
Puts it in.
I was being so obnoxious during March Madness. We were out at a bar watching. It was one of the Final Four games. I think it was UConn, Illinois, and I had some money on UConn. So like towards the end, I'm getting a little bit rowdy. I'm not in the best state, and I just started yelling "bang" at the most inappropriate moments. Like UConn would be at the line shooting free throws, puts one in, bang. It was not very popular that night, but UConn did win. So
Yes, they
was
did.
neat.
And then they lost to
they sure
the
did.
team up north in the national championship.
At this rate, one of those players from that Michigan team is probably getting drafted tonight.
Probably. At this rate, yes. I would, yeah, it seems likely.
God, I hate that
Is
logo.
Caravan available?
Jeffrey Simmons, the defensive tackle for the Tennessee Titans, making their selection, took Cardinal Tate last night at pick number 4 and traded back up to take Keldrick Falcon. There we go with Anthony Hill Jr.
Nailed it.
The linebacker out of Texas. Cole, you're on it again. Anthony Hill Jr., what's he bringing to the Titans?
Slam dunk, touchdown, bullseye, all those things. This is a no-brainer pick for them. It was one of their biggest needs. They really need a good linebacker. Here they got the best one that's available on the board. I think this is a natural linebacker in the middle of the field, but I think he also has enough length and athleticism to move pretty well. So he offers the physicality, he offers the size, but I see no concerns in the movement of Anthony Hill, and he can drop in coverage a little bit and make some plays you'll see on the highlights. So a lot of good things here with this pick. Between Tate, I'm not the biggest Keldrick Faulk guy, and Anthony Hill, though, I overall like the picks for the Tennessee Titans. They've got a lot of needs, a lot that still needs to be addressed, but 3 steps in the right direction, I would say.
Yeah, it fills a need. I think that's why Sonny Styles was talked about quite a bit, potentially for this team outside of that like Jeremiah Love conversation. Obviously surprised a lot of people by taking Tate. But the need is there. I was a little bit lower on Anthony Hill Jr. just because his inconsistency, his lack of discipline, I guess I should say, scares me a little bit. But if anyone's going to be able to shore that up, I feel like Robert Saleh getting in that system is going to do some wonders for Anthony Hill Jr. So out of the linebackers left, I think this is absolutely the best fit for them, even though I do still have Keyshawn Elliott ahead of him. Again, good fit, good prospect here as the Rams already up, getting ready to make their pick.
The Rams at pick number 61.
Yeah, shocked
with
the
with
world.
the new logo and the Tavon Austin in the new uniforms.
I don't have any Tavon Austin highlights. Damn it.
But we do have another tight end off the board, and it's Ohio State's Max Clare going to the Rams.
So the Rams,
Yeah, and the Rams didn't necessarily need a tight end, but
they
I
have like
really,
70 of them.
Yeah, I really think this is an interesting pick for the Rams because Max Clare, I think he's going to be right in the mix of being that number 1 tight end for them right away. And the thing at Ohio State is he was underutilized. He went to Ohio State, I think, trying to win, and ultimately they didn't win a national championship, but they were a really good team. But he didn't necessarily get the volume that he got at Purdue. He was in many ways one of, if not the best tight end in the country when he was at Purdue and was putting up huge numbers. He was expected to still be right up there, went to Ohio State, and his numbers were down. But in the games where Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate were out, Max Clare was the guy they were turning to step up. The talent is there with Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua. I mean, Max Clare, just another
That's not Max
receiving
Clare.
weapon.
That is
not Max
definitely
Clare.
not Max
That
Clare
is
on the screen.
The edge rusher Yakis out of Illinois that they are showing as Max Clare as a Rams selection.
They did that yesterday too, where they showed a team. They showed like the Browns.
They're
and it said-
doubling down on it. It's still there.
Yeah, they did a thing where they showed the Browns helmets, and it said the Chiefs are on the clock.
But real quick, again, we do have another trade involving the Buffalo
Broncos just
Bills.
don't want to pick in this draft.
The Broncos don't care anymore. I think they might feel like they would have been in the Super Bowl last year if Bo Nix doesn't get hurt. But the Broncos trade back to the Bills. The Bills trade up to pick number 62, and the Broncos will receive pick number 66 and pick 182 for tomorrow.
Yeah, last thing on Claire really quick here. Again, I don't love getting another tight end for the Rams. It feels like they just have this selection of big white tight ends that all have roughly the same number that all go out and do the same thing. I do think Max Clare has the potential to really be the lead guy out of that group, but for a team that's in a Super Bowl window right now, maybe for the next couple of years, I don't love it. Max Clare, again, you're seeing, I do have the highlights up, and primarily it's a lot of his tape from Purdue because, again, that is where he got the majority of the hype. Like, he was my tight end one kind of going into the year because of the potential. Like, it was not a very good Purdue offense. Purdue's not had a good team in a long time, and then putting him with a quarterback like Julian Sain and putting other weapons around him, I really thought that he could take off, but instead he kind of got lost in the shuffle and just not utilized a lot when he was a Buckeye. But you'll see here the Purdue tape. He is explosive. He has sure hands. If he can tap back into this at the next level and working with someone like McVay that will find ways to get him in space, get him open, I definitely think he can take the next step and be more productive as a Ram than he was as a Buckeye.
Yeah, I agree with you guys 100%. Sorry, Cole, real quick. I was just going to say that Purdue was the bulk of his, his real wow moments for you. But at Ohio State, you still saw that ability to really go up and high point the ball when he needed to, really make the impressive, tough catches that you don't typically see tight ends making at the college level. So regardless of being lost in the shuffle of Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, you still had a tight end who was sure-handed and could make the catches. Sorry, go ahead, Cole.
Yeah, I was just going to say, how much Sean McVay loves Ty Simpson, and I hope he enjoys this Max Clare pick as much as the Ty Simpson pick because he was ecstatic yesterday.
Yeah, he didn't seem
That was
too
bizarre.
happy. That was one of those situations where Sean McVay had never met Ty Simpson prior to that pick. So talking to him on the phone, that was likely the first time he had talked to Ty Simpson after they picked him at number 13.
I have a theory on that when you're done with your point, Cole.
You
gonna put
think
on the
he
tinfoil
leaves
hat.
after Matthew Stafford?
I think he retires when Stafford's done. I mean, he's already talked about it a little bit. The rumors have floated out there, and I think he's a smart enough guy to where if he sees once Stafford's gone, especially if you don't like Ty Simpson, which doesn't seem like he does, they're obviously going to hit a wall, and it's going to be a while before they're competing again. He's made his money. He's proven his point. He's won his Super Bowl. I would not be surprised if McVay just follows suit with Aaron Donald and kind of dips out at the top.
And he'll go straight to the media.
100%. He'll be incredible there.
He's one of those coaches like Mike Tomlin. I mean, I think everybody after they saw that the Steelers weren't going to retain him, that he was going to do some sort of media. Sean McVay's right up there with him as a guy that as soon as he's done, he will fit right in with wherever he decides to go, whether it be Fox, CBS, NBC, Amazon, whatever, millions of different things that you could do media on nowadays with all the streaming services. But, yeah, McVay, I agree with you guys. He's not going to stick around much longer after Stafford retires, if at all.
I mean, when they won that Super Bowl, there were two rumors that he's retiring and going in the media, and Aaron Donald's retiring. Aaron Donald only played,
10 years?
10 years in the NFL? Yeah, he was drafted in 14, retired in 24?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, Aaron Donald probably still had 5 more years of good football left in
Easily.
him. Yeah. I mean, he was drafted in 14, retired in 24. I mean, that's insane.
Is this the first pick for Buffalo, or did they get?
They
one
had
else?
one
Second.
earlier in the night,
That's
and
right,
I'm
okay.
blanking on who they took, but it's been a lot of moving parts and a lot of shuffling with trades here in the second round tonight, kind of hard, making it hard for my brain to keep track of who
T.J.
picked
Parker
what.
they took earlier tonight.
Wow. Davison Igbinosun, the cornerback out of Ohio State, goes to Buffalo at pick 62, and Jermod McCoy continues to slide.
Yeah, I actually had the Bills taking Igbinosun in the 3rd round, so it's earlier than I expected here in the second. But I just felt like, even though he's handsy and has had his issues with flags, he improved this last season compared to the season before, the national championship season, where it felt like he would have been better going out there and playing corner. With oven mitts on his hands, right? So he couldn't grab, right? He'd still be sticky. He's got the length.
Just two clubs.
He's really good as a man corner. The main thing for him is just he's got to be careful and not get too handsy, not grab too much. But it was a big need for the Buffalo Bills, and Igbinosun is going to be a good fit for them. And with A.J. Brown potentially going to the Patriots, you have Garrett Wilson to deal with. There's nobody to deal with the Miami Dolphins, so you don't have to worry about them. So, but you have Igbinosun who can actually match up against some of the better receivers in the division. So I think it will be good as long as the issues with being grabby doesn't come back.
Yeah, that was my biggest thing as an Ohio State fan. I thought it was smart that he stayed at Ohio State one more year to kind of try to clean that mess up a little bit. And I thought at the beginning of the year he was doing really well, but that middle of the season it started to come back. He started getting a lot more handsy again, started drawing those defensive holdings, those defensive pass interferences where he couldn't quite keep his hands to himself or did too much with the arms of the receiver that drew those penalties. But I agree 100% with you, Cole. If he can really knock down and stop with the handsiness, I guess, he's going to be a really solid man coverage corner in the NFL. The Chargers are looking to make their selection at pick number 63. I always like when the NFL, they have all this different fan sections and all the super fans that show up at the draft.
Yeah,
it's always
they're
so
paid
cool to me.
be there.
I don't care. I think it's cool that they pan to them and that they have that dedicated to them. It's nice to have everybody involved in their own little way. I don't care if you pay them. I don't care if they pay you.
Well, that guy's a super fan. He's painting his face. Look, that guy's been there every year since '04. Huh, interesting. I wonder why.
Shoot, if they paid me to do it, I'd do it.
Sell out.
What are you trying to say?
I said it.
Cole, any instant reaction where you think Chargers might go? Went edge rusher earlier in this draft.
Honestly, I'm not sure. I think Pregnon would make a lot of sense here right now. I think that they could use another offensive lineman, so I take the value.
Yeah, he's one of my highest rated players left on here. Would not hate that.
That's
Akeem Messidor earlier in the draft. The oldest prospect in this draft.
why am I blanking on this guy's name, Dom? Wasn't he a Steeler linebacker?
Sean Merriman?
Yeah.
No, he was never a Steeler linebacker.
I don't know
love
why
how
I thought
Cole
he was
still
a-
got there off of that.
And the Chargers go with a center, Jake Slaughter, out of Florida. Beef up that interior O-line, get Justin Herbert some help there.
One of the best centers available here in this draft. Felt like interior offensive line would be a smart move for them. So ultimately, I can't fault them for this pick. I think it's a good one. It addresses a need for the Chargers and that relationship right in front of Justin Herbert. It's going to be important to have a good center.
Yeah, you saw them dealing with a lot of injuries to that line last year, especially like when Joe Alt went out. I know obviously he's not going to be a guy to replace Alt, but that offense completely changed when the line, started to wear down a little bit. So anywhere that you can kind of, shore that up, completely fine with that. A little bit of a lower center prospect for me compared to what was left. Again, his power worries me a little bit. Connor Liu from Auburn, tell me if I'm wrong. He did not come off the board at this point, correct?
He is not. No.
Yeah, just from a full prospect standpoint, someone that has the instincts to play the center position, smart enough to do it, and has a little bit of a power profile. I'm surprised Connor Liu still sitting there, jumping all the way to Jake Slaughter. I don't know. I'm, again, nitpicking here. The correct position I think they needed to go with, just not the prospect I would have grabbed.
And interesting, here we have the Seahawks coming up ready to take the final pick of the second round. Key departures for them, Kobe Bryant and Reek Woolen. Really two big cornerstone pieces of their secondary now gone. And in the 32nd pick of the first round, they took care of their running back need, taking Jadarian Price after Kenneth Walker left. Jermod McCoy's got to be the pick here, right?
That would be absolutely incredible value for the Seahawks to get him at the back end of the second round. It feels like a rich getting richer type situation. And the Seahawks, again, while you've lost a lot of pieces, that defense is still solid enough, and McDonald's going to be able to scheme guys enough to where if you do have to wait a little bit for McCoy to kind of get his feet under him, it's not going to kill you here. And on top of that, like, corner is obviously a need. I mean, if you want someone that's going to be a little more plug and play, like a Keontae Scott or Keith Abney are still sitting here, but I think Jermod McCoy, you run that card in, you don't think twice about it, but I could have said that for about the last 15 picks, it feels like. Something is not right here. He's still sliding. We're now beyond Will Johnson territory where, again, teams are passing on because they were scared of the injury. This is telling me that there is something more to either the medicals or just something that's not completely public now because, I mean, I realize I'm higher on him than average, but again, my 5th overall talent in this class is still sitting here at pick 64. So I need to know what is going on and how much farther it's going to cause him to slide.
I didn't have the big board of the big mock drafts like you and Cole did, but I had some guys that I had written down that I could see going in the first round, and Jermod McCoy was one of them. So for me to see him still here at the last pick of the second round is just shocking.
He's my 19th overall prospect. I'd absolutely run in that card if I'm the Seahawks. However, I could also see them with Boy Mafe no longer being a part of the Seahawks. I still feel like there's that spot where they're going to want that 4th edge rusher. They have DeMarcus Lawrence. They have Uchenna Nwosu. They have Derek Hall. But I think they like having a rotation of 4 guys because I don't look at that group as having a really true outstanding start at the moment. It is about rushing the passer by committee. I think in their scheme, Romello Height of Texas Tech would also be somebody who would fit that scheme well, pair well, has some length, has some athleticism. So I think if they don't take the value pick in a Jermod McCoy, maybe an edge rusher like a Romello Height, they may even reach for an Anthony Lucas. The Seahawks like to reach for guys sometimes. The USC edge rusher, somebody who would fit well in that 3-4 scheme on the outside.
2 more things real quick. One, also potentially an Emmanuel Pregnon spot. They could definitely shore up the interior of that offensive line, and he has slipped farther than I anticipated. But 2, ESPN still has running back as the number 1 need for the Seahawks. So maybe they just double dip here and go back to your original thought, Cole, and take Jonah Coleman. Just really invest in that running back room.
Why not? I'm not a Charbonnet guy.
They are apparently not either. And not what anybody considered. Bud Clark, safety, TCU.
Good player, though. I like his physicality. I really liked the film on Bud Clark. I still had him behind who's still available. A.J. Halsey of LSU was my number 4.
Yeah,
Zakee Wheatley of Penn State was my 5. I liked his ball skills. But Bud Clark, a very physical safety, and there's something about his size and the physicality from Bud Clark that reminds me a lot of some other safeties that the Seahawks have had before. They like to have tough, hard-hitting physical safeties, and I think that's exactly what they get hit in Bud Clark. So props to them for this one. 68th overall prospect for me, so again, still right in that range. Accurate value, in my opinion.
Yeah, and again, interesting now, we're officially in round number 3. And by the way, Bud Clark, I had a little bit lower. He was my 7th ranked safety prospect. Sorry, let me adjust that real quick. again, the athleticism isn't quite there when he needs to go and make recovery plays, which I think is going to happen a little bit more at the NFL level, especially when he was at TCU, not necessarily facing the highest level of competition. But interesting.
John Kolb.
There. Oh,
So the guy that just went out there, John Kolb, he was my offensive line coach.
Oh, wow.
Won 4 Super Bowls with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Me and him didn't get along super well, but he is a really no, seriously. Me and him had a tough relationship. I was 14, whatever. He was an old school coach. He did things the way Chuck Noll did them, and he was very stern on that. But he's a tough guy. He is very fit even for his age. And he's first of all a great. He donated his Super Bowl rings to charity. Like this is a good man, John Kolb. So it's really cool to see him getting credit because he's not one of those guys that typically gets credit when you talk about the '70s Steelers in an offensive line. So it's cool to see him out there.
He just didn't like that you kept begging to play center.
No, it's just a lot of things. He's a good guy. I will say it's again. He went to my grandfather's funeral when he passed away. He's a very respectful man, a very hardworking man, a family-oriented man. So it's cool to see him up there, with our troops, with the 250 for America. But yeah, he had us doing the craziest workouts, man. We would do wagon wheel push-ups for like 100 yards and back. It was brutal.
Jesus.
Yeah, like up a hill too sometimes. He was insane. His workouts sucked, but he was.
Is that why you didn't get along?
No, I was just that wasn't a practice player. I didn't have the effort every day as a 14-year-old, right? I'm 14.
I'm putting that in your scouting profile.
I'm getting getting my ass beat every day during practice. Pretty sure I could say that on YouTube. I'm getting my ass beat every day at practice. Not super motivated to go out. Yeah, he's not going to respond to that. So of course not. And then sophomore year, he respected me a little bit more, and then he stopped coaching us after that. But again, it's nothing but respect for him and everything he's done. And he's a good coach. Again, he did things the old-fashioned way. Practices were brutal, but he respected us as kids and as football players. So respect him as well. And he helped train a lot of kids too, young kids.
As we have this long pause, though, I want to bring this up, guys. Something that I think is important of note. We'll get to talk some more Browns here in a little bit, but as it turns to the third round, first round, I had my doubts, I had my concerns. I wasn't happy with the draft in the first round. Second round, I think they turned it around. I feel really good about the Boston pick and the value that they got there. And now they brought in 2 wide receivers, I think it totally changes everything. I think getting McNeil Warren's a huge win for the Cleveland Browns. So they're back on the right track. It might not necessarily be to the level of last year, where they were hitting on every pick when it came to the season. But ultimately, I think you're seeing a pretty well-rounded roster. I think there's still a few other spots. I could see them taking another safety at some point just to have some depth. I think corner is probably the biggest need right now because of the lack of depth they have behind Ward and they have behind Tyson Campbell. But overall, I think some good things for the Cleveland Browns, guys.
Non-football related, Paul Skeens is perfect through 6 innings right now. Again, not draft related, not football related, but still Pittsburgh related.
Arizona Cardinals on the clock. Okay.
SP, can you unmute Marvel's mic, please? Thank you.
Now, the Cardinals are in a situation now. We haven't seen any other quarterbacks go off the board. We saw a lot of connections to Ty Simpson, obviously went 13. Could they go here with a quarterback?
Certainly possible, right?
Whoa!
There it is.
Carson, ew! I do not like Carson Beck. I'm not a fan of Carson Beck, but he goes here with the first pick in the third round, 65th overall, to the Arizona Cardinals.
He could honestly win that starting job is the funny thing, too. Now,
that's
this
depressing.
I think the most hated quarterback I think I've really ever seen at the Combine because every time he went to throw, he got booed. I've never seen somebody get booed every time they make a pass attempt at the NFL
Combine.
at the combine. But I'll tell you what, that mental fortitude, he's won wherever he's gone. Is he the most talented quarterback? No. Does he have that clutch gene, right? That I question if Aller has. He does. I mean, he knows how to make some plays at the end of the game, and there's some good things from him. So I think his mental toughness may be the best part about his game and why I think I could see him having some success in the NFL. Is he the most skilled guy? Like I said, no. But in the room he's going into, and with his age and experience in college, I think he could win this starting job right away.
Now, I know I expressed my deep displeasure for Carson Beck, but could he potentially be a Bo Nix situation where it's an older quarterback prospect coming in? He had a lot of college experience where he really just needs a little bit of fine-tuning in the NFL to become a really successful quarterback.
I don't think so. I'm biased. I'm a Georgia fan, for anyone that doesn't know at this point, and I saw enough of Carson Beck. It's not just the clutch gene. It's hard to trust him because some of the decisions that he makes, throwing the ball, trying to take care of the ball, it blows my mind. Just some of the boneheaded things. Even go back to that last play where he kind of threw his receiver under the bus in that national championship game against Indiana. So wildly underthrows a guy. He's just left a bad taste in my mouth having to watch him for so long. He's an older prospect, like much, much older prospect. He was quite literally in the same recruiting class, if I remember correctly, as like Caleb Williams and C.J. Stroud, or Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, rather. And he's just now coming up because he needed to stay in college that long to really develop into an NFL guy. That last year in Georgia, his stock kind of fell off a cliff. I don't know, man. Maybe he turns out. I can't get the taste out of my mouth of Carson Beck. Good luck to Arizona, man. But I think you're just going to make that quarterback room messy.
Yeah, I like him. He throws the ball deep. He makes crazy, mindless plays, and I like that. Quarterbacks are too careful these days. I want a Brett Favre where he just throws the ball recklessly down the field. I want a Elway launching the ball as far as possible. Who's down there? Who can catch it? Terry Bradshaw won 4 Super Bowls, closing his eyes and heaving it. I want more of that. I understand defense is a little bit more complicated, and Cole, I'm sure you want to break this down as well, this pick here. But I like a quarterback that can just sling the ball down the field recklessly, and I like Carson Beck. Maybe that's not great, analyzing of it, but I like that old school recklessness, gunslinger quarterbacks.
Now I'm going to try to pronounce this last name. Let's see. We have the defensive tackle out of Texas A&M going to the Broncos at 66, Tyler Aniadim. Was that close? Tyler Aniadim?
That's a good question. I don't have that pronunciation in front of me.
Anyadim, but yeah, I think
I'll take it.
It's Denver's
trying to
first
think
pick,
through it.
correct?
Yeah, this is their first pick.
He's a guy that just snuck in to my mock draft, actually. I had him going to the Denver Broncos, but I had him being Mr. Irrelevant at pick 257.
So would you say that's a reach, Cole?
So I do think it's a reach. I had him to the right team, but way off on when he was going to get selected. The Broncos take him with their first selection to start the 3rd round. I had the defensive tackle from Texas A&M going to the Broncos, like I said, at the final pick of this entire NFL draft. So on that 3-4 base defense, I think he's a smaller defensive tackle. He's not going to be your nose tackle. He's still going to have the hand in the dirt. He'll fit in, next to that defensive tackle, trying to plug up the holes and stop the run game and let those edge rushers get around them.
Yeah, someone check on Vince. Raiders making their pick now, by the way.
Yeah, Vince earlier texted me saying to stop Denver from trading back, and they traded back, and they make Tyler Aniadim their selection there. And now we see Kieran Crawford, the edge out of Auburn, go at 67 to Las Vegas.
Ball State mentioned. Nope, now they're gone.
Yeah, I mean the Raiders, they need a lot of defensive talent. They need a lot of defensive players. Thought Max Crosby was going to be gone for a hot second, right? And then everything fell through with the Baltimore Ravens, and then he came back. So with him almost going elsewhere, I wonder what kind of ground they're on at this point for the long term. As long as he's playing and he's healthy, Max Crosby's an unreal talent, but they need help there at edge rusher. To offer a little bit of security. but I'm not moved by the Kieran Crawford pick. We're starting off the third round. Aside from the Carson Beck pick, I think it's very valuable. It's a valuable pick for them there. Where third round, not a big deal. That's my 21st overall edge rusher though, in Kieran Crawford. So, I mean, I understand the need, but there's so many better edge rushers than him right now.
Yeah, it is interesting. Romello Height, Deni Dennis Sutton, LT Overton, all still sitting up on the board. Feels like a little bit of a reach there for Las Vegas. I don't know.
They've taken
let me pull up my
Stukes,
notes on it.
and now
Yeah,
they've
traded
gone
Stukes.
Crawford. I'm just not moved by it, SP.
Yeah, it's not been an awesome draft, and I like John Spytek quite a bit, but not his best draft. And I don't know how much credit I can really give you for Fernando Mendoza because you got him just because your team was terrible last year, and almost any team was going to take him that was quarterback needy. So not loving how this is shaping up at this point for Vegas. Obviously, still some time to make it up. Eagles picking here next.
And I will say back to the Pittsburgh-related but not NFL-related, I believe Dom jinxed Paul Skeens as he lost his perfect game bid in the 7th inning.
Damn it, Dom.
Whatever.
The echo on that was just phenomenal.
We're getting close to Cleveland Browns territory,
Yeah,
correct?
the
are.
last Cleveland Browns pick, unless they trade, I do believe.
And if Jermod McCoy is still
Yep.
there at
Oh, my
74, you
God.
have to take Jermod McCoy. Stop the slide. Continue the fantastic day 2 that Andrew Berry has had, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's exactly where I was going with this conversation. Jermod McCoy at corner, really the biggest need for the Cleveland Browns right now. You're in Jermod McCoy range here at the moment because
You've been in
McCoy's still
Jermod
there.
McCoy range for the last 2.5 rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. You're clearly still in range with the slide continuing to happen. So I would take advantage of the opportunity and get a Jermod McCoy, who I said I felt like he was a lot like a direct replacement for Martin Emerson Jr. So I didn't necessarily see the value in the first round. In the third round, I definitely see the value now. I would jump
100%.
all over this.
100%. And again, we still have a few picks to go, and there are some teams that could, I think, possibly still sneak up and grab it. San Francisco and Chicago are the next two. Also would be a little bit of Howie Roseman to be like, let's just take the talent and figure it out, despite the fact that they've got Quinyon Mitchell and then obviously Cooper DeJean in that secondary. But I feel like he's going to come off the board before the Browns have a chance. But if not, there's no one else even remotely close on my big board right now as far as value goes. Let me see. Again, Ted Hurst is 48 for me. I understand I am the outlier on that. That's fine. Emmanuel Pregnon at 33. And then, it's Jermod McCoy at 5 overall on my board. No one even close. A.J. Halsey, but we're not taking another safety. He's at 35. We have to, man.
I have a few that are close, but they're not at position groups really for the Browns because I have Jermod McCoy at 19 overall. Emmanuel Pregnon right after him at 20. I have Jonah Coleman, the running back from Washington, at 24. Nicholas Singleton, the running back from Penn State, who I'm high on, at 27. Caleb Tiernan, offensive tackle, Northwestern, 28. And then Katron Allen, the other running back from Penn State, at 30. I love those Penn State running backs.
I could see us going interior offensive line as well and just continue to try to throw stuff at this and turn what was our strength became our biggest weakness last year. I mean, we need a good offensive line if we're going to figure out what we have at the quarterback position. If Deshaun Watson's going to make his revival.
A potential Jennings Dunker, perchance?
Possibly. Markel Bell, speaking of offensive tackles.
Markel Bell, the tackle out of Miami. 6'9", 346, absolute monster of a human being. Going to the Eagles.
I do like this for the Eagles. Just going offensive line in general. While it's been one of their strengths, you saw last year the tush push wasn't nearly as effective, and it's because that line is starting to age and wear down a little bit. They were not healthy for a lot of the year, and you saw the entire team's identity kind of shift because of that. So it's time to start rebuilding that, remake a strength to strength, because they've only got a year or two left of that being, one of the better units on their team.
Markel Bell, a Cleveland guy. Cleveland, Mississippi.
I was like, really? He's from Cleveland?
Oh my God, what
I was
school is he going to
confused.
say? And then he said Cleveland, Mississippi. I forgot there's a Cleveland, Mississippi.
I didn't
Cleveland,
know there
Tennessee
was.
as well.
I knew that. I drove through it.
Big boy at left tackle.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of a size comparable to DeJuan Jones, who went in this similar range. He was eventually 4th round for the Browns a few years back, but he's DeJuan Jones, what, 6'8", 375. Bell just an inch shorter and 25 pounds lighter, but he's just absolute monster size. It's going to be hard for those edge rushers that like to really just kind of bend. When you have that long arms and the strength of a guy like Bell, he kind of just shove you over a little bit.
Chicago wasting no time.
And the picks are going to go a little bit quicker here in the 3rd round. This is, I think, when they really start to ramp things up in the NFL draft. Everybody's pretty much made a pick at this point, and they kind of let whoever come up and make the selection for whatever reason it may be. I don't
Just
know.
start pulling people out of the crowd.
Yeah,
It's fine.
seriously. Yeah.
Was it the Colts a few years ago that just started having zoo animals make their picks?
Yes. They would go to the zoo, and they just hold up a sign with the pick, and it's like, okay, here we
right.
go. You're a Colt.
That's what we're doing. Can you imagine telling that story? Like, yeah, I got drafted by an orangutan. They're not even just announcing the picks; they're actually making them. All right, come on, guys, get on with it. Sorry, Duck's an asshole. You can throw him off if you need
No,
to.
it's okay. Come on, Duck.
Again, he's special. Notice how he has a dog tag for a collar.
No, I like it. No, I
Sam
would.
Roush.
Another tight end for Chicago.
Yep. Makes no sense.
What am I missing? Like, are there not going to be any tight ends in the next 4 drafts?
Apparently not. At this rate, we've seen now, what is this, the 4th tight end, 5th tight end come off the board tonight?
Let me.
Because we had
Let's see.
Stowers, we had Claire, we had
Oh
the
my goodness
Michigan guy.
gracious! Look at him.
He's got the glasses with the tape in the middle on top
like-
of the bridge of the nose.
5 tight ends tonight, 6 total.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And
Okay.
and I think that's okay, but I still think there's better tight ends out there. I mean, Roush is. I think they see Stanford tight end and hope, okay, we get a physical tight end. I think sometimes when you throw out Stanford and you throw out Notre Dame, you think of kind of a traditional physical blocking tight end. I think Roush is a good player. He's my 11th tight end though, and going to a team that has Colston Loveland and really, unless I'm wrong, Cole Kmet's still there. So. I just don't see this being a big need. I would have preferred them going wide receiver. I mean, DJ Moore's no longer there. I would have snagged it, Elijah
Please
Surratt or Chris
Yeah.
Bell or Zachariah Branch. Like, why not add another receiving threat? But you just add a guy who's really not a receiving threat.
It is interesting. The wide receiver pool, the wide receiver runs have really, really cooled. And I think we're to the point where it's got to start picking back up soon. I mean, receivers that I have sitting here, I have my 48th, 52nd, 60th, 67th prospects all still sitting there, and we're into the 60s already for picks, 70s now. So I imagine Surratt, Bell, Brazel, someone's going to get picked here soon, I'd imagine. And it's not going to be by the 49ers, though, as we are finally going to get Romello Height off the board.
The edge
Yeah,
from
and
Texas Tech.
That's one where the 49ers are finally not trying to be the smartest person in the room. That was the best edge rusher, I think, still available right now. Good bend, good length. Not quite the caliber of David Bailey, who went at pick 2 to the Jets, but he was still an integral part of that defense for Texas Tech this past year.
And this is the 2nd Texas Tech defender off the board tonight, 3rd overall. As Cole just mentioned, David Bailey going number 2 overall, and then we saw Jacob Rodriguez go 41 to the Dolphins, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah, 41 to the Dolphins. And now we see Romello Height go here at number 70 overall, the other edge who was paired up with those two on the defensive side for the Red Raiders, going to the 49ers. And they had that interesting pick with Deshaun Stribling. I'm still confused by that. But I like that you mentioned Chris Bell a little bit ago, Cole, because early in this whole draft process and shortly after the college football season, Chris Bell was one of those names at wide receiver. Is like, could he be potentially a late first rounder? Could be an early second rounder? And then as the combine and the pro days started going, he just kept dropping and dropping and dropping down so many boards. Now, Chris Bell, do you have him anywhere really in the range of like the Jeremy Bernards were or anybody else in that kind of range?
I did actually, because I had let's start at 6. 6 Elijah Surratt, 7 Zachariah Branch, 8 Jeremy Bernard, who went to the Steelers, 9 Chris Bell, 10 Chris Brazel, And I actually had at 11 Omar Cooper Jr. I wasn't quite as high on Omar Cooper
Wow.
Jr. Thought he was still in the mix, good player, but I had him a little bit lower down the board. So Chris Bell should still be right in the mix here. I think he's a good player. Listen, I mean, he doesn't compare to David Bell, right? I was always a huge David Bell guy, and then unfortunately
You're right, he might
the
actually stick in the
situation
NFL.
with him, and the injury and ended his career ultimately as he was, I think, really on an upward swing, and the Browns were starting to utilize him a little bit more. But he's not going to compare to a guy like David Bell, but the namesake. But Chris Bell's still a good player and has potential in this league.
Yeah, and again, I have him right in here too. I mean, this is pick 71. He's my 72nd overall prospect, but again, grouped with a bunch of light guys. I've got, again, Ted Hurst, who is a guy I'm betting on at 48. Then I have Chris Brazel, Skylar Bell, Elijah Surratt, Jeremy Bernard, and then Chris Bell right there, followed by, again, Zachariah Branch and Deion Burks, all really clustered together. Even Bryce Lance, who is definitely a scheme fit kind of guy, where he's going to do one thing really well. But again, there's a lot of wide receiver talent, which maybe is why so many teams are waiting, because they feel like they can just keep getting these guys later and later. But I feel like once one or two more goes off the board, we're really going to see a run as teams start to kind of panic and get back to that. Elijah Surratt, I have a gut feeling is going to be the first one off of any of these guys off the board, maybe Chris Bell. And then, like I said, it's just going to kind of get the ball rolling.
And we
If
saw
you're the
that.
Browns, you can take Zachariah Branch.
I'm okay.
We can add another wide receiver. David Boston,
Screw it.
Casey
more.
Concepcion, and Zachariah Branch.
Georgia wide receivers scare me.
Why?
Well,
As long as someone's driving him to practice, he'll be fine.
I was just gonna say
Keep
the
him off the sidewalk,
field
he'll be fine.
issues with Georgia players in general and the wide receivers.
Obstructing a freaking sidewalk. Come on. Didn't even do anything fun like reckless driving like the rest of his teammates. Unless he was driving on the sidewalk, that would be concerning. This might be the only time in NFL history that a police report has actually helped a prospect when that comes out. Like, I mean, him getting arrested, not good. Then you see, like, what it was for. It's like, oh, okay. I feel like the Georgia police over there are a little trigger happy, as they probably should be, with how often the players seem to be getting up to something, but a little aggressive, I'd say, with Branch.
And the Commanders here up to pick at number 71 as we're coming back from a commercial break, seeing who they're going to take. Took Sonny Styles at pick 7 in the first round last night. Adams added some defensive help in the offseason as well this offseason. They could continue to go there with the cornerback position of Jamad McCoy. They could go interior line still. They could go wide receiver. I mean, the Commanders, although they've been a little more successful and they have Jaden Daniels, I feel like they still have quite a few pieces that they could go to try to tighten up and continue to add depth to.
They need a running back, too.
Yeah, I could start seeing running back opening up at this point.
Chris Rodriguez left in the offseason. Chris Rodriguez, one of the many running backs used by the Commanders last season.
And Brian Robinson left.
Brian Robinson left. They have Ja'Cory
Beginning of that
Krosky
season.
Merritt, good old Bill, as he goes by.
Still a great nickname.
I love it. His first name's Ja'Cory, and just call me Bill. Mark Ripien at the podium making the pick for the Commanders.
Pit legend. I think we're losing Dom.
Yeah.
I keep reading this Reuben Baines stuff. It's hilarious. Like, dude's gonna be a monster. See the thing where he'd even look in the mirror? When
He just grabbed
he
it. He was
had-
pissed. He walked out like Bane. I love
Reuben Baines saying he's a frugal guy and isn't the type to pay for someone's number is hilarious.
Well, that's
He's
why
just gonna wear whatever number they give him. I love that for a pass rusher.
Which is even better, too, because it's low moving costs. He doesn't even need to get a plane ticket. He just loads up a U-Haul, grab Tristan Wirfs, they'll load that thing up together and just drive over to Tampa Bay. It's perfect.
Exactly.
Another thing with them is they're about to make this pick. I don't know if you saw it. It was unrelated to Reuben Bain, but apparently Tampa Bay had a dinosaur, like a T-Rex, in a Tampa Bay jersey up on their team merch site. The second they picked Bain, that sold out. Like literally
That's
within
awesome.
minutes. Absolutely hilarious. I kind of want one.
Mark Ripien giving a nice monologue about whatever he's talking about before
I'm
he
sure it's
makes the selection.
enthralling.
Opening up his jacket showing that maroon color on the inside for.
I couldn't. Is he repping Washington? I
No,
couldn't
it's girls. It's about
Oh, the flag football. Okay.
tell. All right.
the NFL is making a huge push on high school, PIAA and all that, making girls flag football an official sport.
The Browns just hosted a few schools at their facilities last week or 2 weeks ago. My alma mater, Lutheran West, part of that. They gave away some cleats to a bunch of athletes that play flag football in the area for the girls, which was super cool. Carson Sweshinger was a part of it. As Antonio Williams, the wide receiver out of Clemson, heads to the Commanders.
Wide receiver was certainly a need for them. I felt like they were going to be in that Carnell Tate hunt, but he didn't make it to the Washington Commanders. They went with Sonny Styles, another Ohio State player, great linebacker. Felt like that was a surefire pick for them with Tate off the board. And I think addressing a need is a good thing. I think Antonio Williams is a good player, but he's my 15th wide receiver. I mentioned some of those names: Surratt, Branch, Bell, Brazel. I have Brennan Thompson, Jacoby Lane, Malachi Fields all over Antonio Williams. Good player. Good hands, can climb the ladder, but doesn't necessarily move the needle for me. My 142nd overall prospect felt like he'd be more of a mid to late third, fourth round type of guy.
Yeah, that's about where I had Antonio Williams as well. He's had some issues staying on the field, which when you kind of pair with him being a little bit of an undersized guy is kind of concerning. You can take a risk on that if you just fell in love with him at this point. Again, we're in the third round. But for a team like Washington without a ton of capital, again, I would have liked them to get one of the, more surefire wide receiver prospects. But I guess go get your guy.
Going to give a quick shout-out. Vince, you guys notice, is not here tonight. He was at his daughter Maggie's play. He said she absolutely crushed it in her school's rendition of After Happily Ever After. So good job, Maggie.
Nice. Congratulations, Maggie. Great job.
And Takario Davis, the corner, not named Jermod McCoy, goes off the board to the Bengals.
Well, Bengals need a corner. They need plenty of pieces on defense. Again, this is another position group where we just talked about this at wide receiver. I still think there's a lot better corners available. McCoy, Keontae Scott, Keith Abney II, Dalen Everett, Chandler Rivers, Devin Moore, Julian Neal, all players I had above Takario Davis.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm checking as well. Again, we keep talking about the Jermont McCoy slide. Keontae Scott and Keith Abney still sitting here. Very interesting to me. I had Takario Davis at 101. Chandler Rivers, Dalen Everett, the couple names I had just mentioned previously, all above Takario. So, again, it feels like everyone's just saying screw it at this point and going after guys they like. But it is interesting how, not just me and you, Cole, but like a lot of draft experts, like our boards seem to be off a little bit quicker than normal. Maybe it's because this is a draft that doesn't have as many blue-chip guys, but after round one, man, it feels like we've just been throwing darts at a board.
And
Sure.
pick number 73 is in for the Saints, but we already do have some trade news about pick number 74. It will not be taken by the Cleveland Browns. It will be taken by the New York Giants, who traded up to pick 74. And the Browns will receive picks 105 and 145, along with a 2027.
So that's it for the Browns today.
Fourth
So that's
round
it for
pick.
the Brownies.
Wow.
That's going to be it for
disappointing.
the Browns.
So far.
So far.
Remember, they have plenty of picks to package together and come up if they'd like to.
That's fair.
As Oscar Delp, the tight end out of Georgia, goes to the Saints. Another tight end.
Okay.
This time, I liked Oscar Delp. So for me, this isn't a huge stretch like some of these other tight ends have been. But Cole, SB, what are you guys' thoughts with the number 6 tight end tonight and 7th overall?
Well, finally, the Saints get a tight end that actually offers some receiving value. I think we've been waiting that for quite a while now. So I think that's a good pick from a fit perspective for the Saints. Delp is a true wide receiver that actually just so happens to be a tight end. He has plenty of athleticism. He's not really an inline blocker. He can chip a little bit. He offers, I guess, some willingness, but he's not going to be really a true blocker. He might be the second tight end you put in there. He may be a guy that you put out wide at times and even run him out of a slot position. But I think the athleticism, the receiving ability is a good thing. Delp was my 15th tight end, though. I was not as high on Delp as some others. Good player. I like the receiving ability. But again, he's still way lower than a lot of other players. I actually thought Joe Royer would have been a really nice fit with the Saints. I think I had him mocked to the Saints here in the third round at this very same pick. Didn't happen. They go with Delp.
Delp, I feel like, was a more extreme version of Max Clare with me, where a couple years ago, it was so easy to look at the film and be like, oh my God, like once he is clear of Brock Bowers, this guy is going to absolutely take off. And he never got that usage at Georgia. And I've heard quite a bit from people that are high on Delp where it's like, oh, they misused him. They underutilized him. And I just have a hard time buying into that when, again, Kirby Smart has been as successful as he has been. And again, this program has produced a Brock Bowers. It's produced a Darnell Washington. Like, they know how to utilize their tight ends when they have talent. Something's just not really lining up there for me.
And the Giants, who originally didn't have a third-round pick, make the big jump up into the third round to take Malachi Fields, the wide receiver out of Notre Dame. 6'4", 218.
He's a really big receiver, so it gives them that size. I mean, Malik Neighbors is still your main go-to guy there. They focused on defense really with Arvell Reese and Colton Hood, and they got an offensive tackle in Maui Noah, but now they go with the skill position, and I figured they'd take wide receiver here at some point. Again, there's still better receivers out there. I had Fields just above Antonio Williams, who the Commanders had just taken in the same division, but good hands, like I said, contested catch type of guy. He'll offer a red zone threat, but he's not your explosive guy, but they already have that with Malik Neighbors.
The Giants now with their fourth pick and their fourth different position. Earlier tonight in the second round, they took Colton Hood out of Tennessee, and then obviously yesterday their number 5 and number 10 overall picks, Arvell Reese and Francis Maui Noah. So the Giants kind of going all over the place and getting their needs and trying to really help their team build as quickly as they can with John Harbaugh now in the building.
Curious if the Browns are going to trade back up in the round 3.
I would like to think they will. I had a feeling that they would because of the other picks that they've been able to compile throughout the offseason and earlier in the draft, like last night. They did use some capital to trade back up a little bit to take McNeil Warren, the safety out of Toledo, but I have a feeling they still want to move up and take another one. Andrew Berry said earlier today that they wanted to draft in volume. So I don't see this as a draft where they're just going to be okay with trading away picks and using them for later years or for down-the-line type of deals.
Well, and even though it's not a major need, I still think his running back continues to fall, and we've only seen 2 come off the board at this point. It's a young room, but they really need a true third running back. I don't think Raheem Rocket Sanders is a good enough running back to be your third running back on
Cleveland
this
Browns
roster.
legend, Rocket Sanders.
Absolutely.
I think Judkins is obviously your star, your workhorse back. He's coming off of an injury. Dylan Sampson wasn't as impressive as I would have liked this past year, but I think he's a good second running back. However, why not potentially even start toying around with the idea of Jonah Coleman or some of these other good running backs that are still sitting there? Really make sure that you have 3 good running backs that you feel confident in. I'd feel fine with Raheem Sanders being your powerful 4th running back on the roster, but I know there are a lot of fans who are happy that Jerome Ford is gone and he's with Washington now. I think he offered a lot in the passing game, though. So I think that if you can find somebody, a Nicholas Singleton even, who would offer you some value as that third back, some third down value even, I think that would be potentially something of interest for the Cleveland Browns.
I forgot that Ford went to Washington. Talk about the Legion of Whom when it comes to the running back position. My Lord. Real quick, was that you, Marvel? I was about to say something.
That was me. Cole, who do you think of the 2 Penn State running backs in the draft is the better option, Allen or or Singleton or Singletary, whatever his name is.
They're so close, right? I like them both. I'm higher on them than probably anybody else is. I actually felt like, as much as people love that Notre Dame running back room, I thought that the Penn State running back room was going to be the best one this past year and was going to take the reins of what we saw from Judkins and Henderson the year before. I was like, man, Penn State's in a good spot with these running backs, and they're so good. Singleton is the one I prefer. His explosiveness, you even can use him on jet sweeps and other situations like that, where they'd have Allen in the backfield and then they'd bring him on jet sweeps and reverses, and he has this explosiveness and this receiving ability on third down. Allen is a really tough workhorse back on first and second down. But again, these guys are close for me. I have Singleton as my third overall running back behind Jeremiah Love and Jonah Coleman, and Allen is number 4, one spot ahead of Jadarian Price. So, and overall, Singleton's 27 overall, Allen is 30 overall. Still two of the best value guys, in my opinion, on the board right now.
Real quick, guys, just a programming note. The original plan tonight was going to be us going all the way through the Browns selections. Now, we're not aware if the Browns are going to trade back up into the round. We are going to give it to pick 80. We will, once we announce pick 80, if the Browns have not made a move, we will call it a night. Obviously, keep an eye on Keon Sports, our socials, for any kind of breaking news, picks like that. We'll obviously also cut in if, one of the local players that we covered, like a Drew Aller, happens to get taken. We'll get a story up about that as well. But pick 80 unless the Browns make a move. And if you have been sticking with us up to this point, we really appreciate it.
And pick number 75 just went off, and it's Caleb Douglas,
Douglas.
the wide receiver out of Texas Tech. I will never not call him anything else throughout his whole career other than Caleb Douglas, for tonight's reasons only. And with that being already 5 picks to pick 80, I'm going to start kind of the conversation now. We've seen a lot of teams have 3-4 picks. We're going to start with the AFC North right here. What of the 4 teams you guys think have had the best draft so far as the Steelers are on the clock? Cole, we'll start with you.
Well, honestly, it's also just the volume of the picks. It's funny as it is, the Cleveland Browns, I knocked them for their first round. Now, I can live with it a little bit more because I've appreciated the second round. I think it's just because of the volume, too. Cleveland's had 4 picks, and I think what they've done in the second round has helped them round out their roster a little bit more. I've already talked a little bit about some of the concerns I have for the first round guys. I feel definitely better about the Concepcion pick now with Boston. So ultimately, I think Cleveland has had.
I saw something I wasn't supposed to. Someone text Vince.
Oh, boy.
Uh-oh, guys.
Steelers on the clock.
Does this mean what I think it means?
Does that mean Drew Aller to the Pittsburgh
Let's
Steelers?
find out. We don't know. We haven't seen it.
I looked at it so fast, I may have saw it wrong.
Let's
You're
see.
lying.
It's Pittsburgh. Well, let's see. They're getting the crowd into it. Let's see what happens. Is our boy Drew?
And this is
Dom,
something
Dom's excited. He was thinking he didn't want Drew, I think, going to the Pittsburgh
No, I never
Steelers.
said that. I like Drew. I'm a big fan of Drew. I again, the prospect of Green's exciting because he's such a different player, but I mean, a guy that I've covered in high school and college, how am I not rooting for that to go to my favorite team,
Man, that's an interesting one. He'd potentially be able to win the job there.
Yeah.
He has to beat out Will Howard.
Waha.
Will had pa.
Waha, but you the downtown, wash the hands.
How about the Cleveland kid, though? Growing up a huge Browns fan. If you go here to the Steelers.
I hope I didn't see this wrong.
Let's find out.
And he did it. Drew Aller. The Medina quarterback.
Wow.
I said in 2022, I'll say it again. We're going to the Super Bowl.
Drew Aller, the Medina, Ohio native. The Penn State quarterback. Goes
on, Drew.
76 overall to Dom's Pittsburgh Steelers.
Come on, Drew.
We'll toss this to Dom here really quick because I know he's going to want to dive into this some more. But here's what I'm going to say about Drew's big arm and the high ceiling. There's a lot of potential for him here. He's going to have in Pittsburgh what he never had at Penn State. And that is a big wide
coach?
receiver on the outside who can
Oh.
stretch the field vertically, where he can actually show off that arm. DK Metcalf, right? And then he has a possession receiver in Michael Pittman Jr. They also brought in Jeremy Bernard, and we talked about if Roman Wilson can actually stay healthy and play. There's some receiving talent. There's some weapons here he just did not have with Penn State. So I'm excited to see him actually throw it down the field. Dom likes a quarterback who can just launch it far. That's this guy. He has that ability in him. There's a reason why there's a little bit of that Josh Allen to him. He's not going to be to the level of Josh Allen. Again, I can see a little bit of the current Joe Flacco in him as well. He's more mobile than that, but going to sit in that pocket, going to be a gunslinger. Hope the accuracy and the footwork gets cleaned up a little bit, but strong arm, and Dom should be excited.
Okay, so here's a concern, right, that I had for Kenny Pickett when it comes to coming in as a Penn State, Pitt, or West Virginia player. Fan base is going to hate you. Most of it's going to hate you. Some of it's going to love you. Kenny Pickett had the same problem, right? With Kenny Pickett. So I just got 2 texts in one group chat. One from my uncle, how excited he is. He's a Penn State lifer. Another from my dad, saying the F-bomb because he's upset because he doesn't think Drew is a good quarterback because he went to Penn State. That's what this young man's going to have to deal with. He is currently going to play in a stadium that Pitt also shares, which means there are going to be people like me, won't be me, but people like me that are going to hate him just because of the color he wore in college. And people that wore that ugly blue and yellow down south at West Virginia, they're going to hate Drew. But the rest of the state's going to love him because he's a Penn State guy, right? He's going to have to deal with that. And it's going to be a very hard dynamic. If this young man makes one mistake, one slip, which he will, right? That's just natural part of it. He's going to have 2 college fan bases calling for his head saying, well, we didn't give Kenny this type of grace, right? Or if he was a West Virginia guy, we'd be giving this kind of grace. And they're going to fight back and forth. I know this isn't like actual like analyzing it, but it's not like Browns fans where majority of them are Ohio State fans for the most part. Right, a few Michigan fans, but usually they're not super judgmental on Ohio State guys like that. But with Drew, that's what he's going to have to deal with at Pittsburgh. I'm super happy he's a Steeler. His ceiling's super high. I hope he's a better decision maker. Yes, he didn't have the great wide receivers, but there were talent in that room because it's talent that I saw succeed at other places that he struggled to connect with. I don't know if that was a Drew issue, if that was a scheme issue, or if that was a wide receiver or not having protection issue. I'm not quite sure, but it was something, and I hope it wasn't him, because if there's even a little bit of pro prospect like we thought there was before last season was a complete disaster for Penn State and the Nittany Lions, this young man can end up having a decent career, because we saw last year from Sam Darnold, it does not take being the best quarterback on the field to win a Super Bowl, to win all those games. Sometimes it takes making smart decisions, calculated decisions, taking your time, making the correct read, and having a great team surrounding you. I don't know if the Steelers are a great team. They may not be. They might be a bad team. But there's talent on this roster, and he has an opportunity to take the reins from Will Howard, right? And Mason Rudolph, and who knows? I mean, I don't think they make that pick if they think Rodgers is coming back. So
right,
he has an opportunity, and he can either prove that he should have been taken higher, or he's going to be a backup his career and maybe hopefully make a lot of money and secure wealth for his family. But either way, I think he's going to be successful.
We're going to continue the Aller conversation here in just a minute. Just want to update pick number 77, originally held by Tampa Bay, traded to Green Bay. They took Chris McLean, defensive tackle, out of Mizzou.
Yeah.
I'll get that updated on the board here shortly.
So McClellan coming off the board, tackle from Missouri. But yeah, I think honestly, Dom, I think you're going to see all 3 quarterbacks potentially start at some point this next season. It's going to be a matter of, I think, if Mason Rudolph or Will Howard win the job initially. I would like to hope and think that it's going to be Will Howard, but I wouldn't be surprised if they play the first couple games with Rudolph. He has his struggles. They go to Will Howard. Will Howard has some moments of playing well. I think he's a pretty accurate quarterback. He has some running ability. There's something about him as a leader and a personality in the locker room and the clubhouse is he just has this maturity about him, and it's something I loved when he was then at Ohio State. But is he the caliber of quarterback to be a long-term starter? No, he's not. I think he's a really good backup to have, a great locker room guy, going to be helpful in film, and you can always rely on him if he is to come in. Drew's the only one here that actually has the ceiling of being potentially a long-term starter. And if you get that opportunity, I was hoping that it wouldn't happen this next year. I was hoping he'd get at least 1 year to sit and learn from somebody. He's not in that type of room. I expect to see him maybe not for a full second half of the season, but for a good chunk of the second half of the season. And I hope for him, he gets a good rhythm early and plays well, because I don't want people calling for his head too soon. Because he's going to need a little bit of time, but ultimately there could be some good things that come from this.
I think the most depressing takeaway from this entire thing, going back to what Dom started with, is that Drew Aller is getting a massive upgrade at wide receiver by going to the Steelers.
Yep.
Right? And the thing is, it's true. Like, he has not had elite receiving talent at all while he's been at Penn State, outside of Tyler Warren, who, again, was more of a safety valve. Like, you could get it to him anywhere on the field. He never really had that true, like, downfield wide receiving threat there. So, again, I'm very intrigued at what he's going to do at this next level. I agree that he was the last quarterback here with true starter upside. I even had him over Ty Simpson because of that, not because I think he's the most ready right now, but because, I mean, hey, he's a lottery ticket that can at least turn into something. I don't have a lot of interest in drafting a quarterback with just backup potential, in the second, third, even early fourth rounds. I would rather take a risk on a guy, again, like Drew Aller, and see what he can turn into once you get him in your building there in Pittsburgh, and hopefully develop him out a little bit. I'm a little worried that if Rodgers doesn't come back, the lack of veteran presence there to help him develop. I guess, again, Mason Rudolph has been around for a minute. I don't know how much of a mentor he's really going to be. But overall, I'm thrilled for Drew. I hate that it's Pittsburgh, but I'm going to be rooting for him nonetheless.
Yeah, Drew was a guy that I saw play 2 times his senior year.
Pittsburgh legend.
Yeah, Pat McAfee on the screen.
Boo! 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 So I'm done.
But Drew
Well,
Aller.
he can't just make the pick. I
No, why would he?
can't stand him anymore, man. Just say, and with the 78th pick, the Indianapolis Colts pick, a guy you're never going to hear about again. But instead he's doing a magic trick. It's gone. It's behind your thumb, Pat. Just make the pick. Everyone's sick of you, and I liked you. Make the pick.
As I was saying,
This is painful.
we're blessed to be in Northeast Ohio, a spot where high school football is at a premium. I mean, we're one of the biggest regions in the entire country where we see some of the most elite football talent come from. We've seen Arvell Reese's. We've seen now a Drew Aller. We've seen Sincere Johnson, who's committed now to Ohio State, who's going to be a linebacker, also from Glenville, like Arvell Reese. We've seen Blake Miller went 17th to the Lions, the offensive tackle from Strongsville, as A.J. Halsey, the safety from LSU, goes to the Colts at 78. But we've seen a lot of different guys that you see them, you're like, this is clearly the best insert position here that I've ever seen play football at the high school level. And for me, Drew Aller was that first guy. I saw Lamar Sperling play at Hoban at running back. I saw Bo Jackson play at, oh my goodness, where did Bo go? It's Villa Angeles St. Joe's. And Drew Aller was that quarterback for me. He just stood out among everybody else. You could tell he was definitely prone to be, oh my gosh, this kid could really make it to the NFL. He's going to go pro eventually. And I'm right with you, Brandon. I'm super happy for the kid. I'm going to be rooting for him for his entire career. I wish it was anywhere else but the Steelers, but I'm going to be rooting for that kid until the day he's done.
Yeah, I'm super happy right now. It's, again, how many times, one of the first years I announced, Cole said, hey, we got to do a game at Medina. Why would you, I don't know anything about Medina, right? Well, why there? And he says, there's this kid you got to see. He's a 5-star recruit. Tell my uncle, hey, do you know about this kid committed to Penn State, Drew Aller? Oh, he's going to be a Heisman winner. Of course, that didn't pan out, but never did I think that I'd cover him in college, and then he'd be possibly the starting quarterback for my favorite team. It's pretty cool stuff, man. Really cool, and I'm really happy us as a media outlet has really gotten the follow Drew, especially at the college level as well, at Penn State, and followed him there and watched him play. So pretty cool stuff for not just selfishly for myself and for our company, but for the whole community here in Northeast Ohio and Medina County that's gotten to kind of watch him play and grow and now be a possibly and hopefully a starting quarterback for one of the most historic organizations in all of North American sports, possibly in all the world, really. So to get to don that logo that means so much to, I mean, not just Pittsburgh or Western PA, but this country, as that is the steel, that's the U.S. Steel logo that he's going to put on his head, and that comes from Cleveland, Ohio. That logo does not come from Pittsburgh. That logo comes from Cleveland, Ohio, and they took that. So it's something we should all be proud of, that he represents something that a lot of our family members were a part of here in Northeast Ohio and Western PA. But he gets to represent more than just himself with that Steelers helmet. So it's pretty cool. I know everyone's probably like looking at me like this guy's an idiot, but I mean that's what that logo means. That's what that helmet means and that name means. So he gets to represent that, and you're like, oh, it's just Pittsburgh. That represents all of us, man. So cool that kid gets to do that.
SP massive pick for your Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, I was gonna say nobody cares other than me at this point. With Drew coming off the board, as should be. But yeah, favorite low moving cost pick of the night, Zachariah Branch. Again, Atlanta needed a running mate to go alongside Drake London pretty badly. He was kind of right in that cluster of receivers that was still available for me. So very, very happy with that pick, that he gets to stay in the state of Georgia as well. So welcome to the squad, Zachariah Branch. And again, unless there is movement here in the next couple of minutes, folks, this is going to be our last pick of the night. Baltimore Ravens at pick 80.
And Tua loves small, speedy receivers, so it makes sense there. And we get to end it with the bus back at the podium.
One more quick
I'm
thing
never
on
living this
Aller.
down.
It would be the most Browns fan luck if Drew Aller pans out to be one of the greatest quarterbacks that the Pittsburgh Steelers have ever seen, and he torches Browns defenses for years and years to come. I pray that happens for his sake, but I pray it doesn't for my sanity as a Browns fan.
All right, let's end it on a high note, Baltimore. Please blow this.
And
Long snapper?
saw a little tweet that said that's Mark Ingram and his son with him for the Baltimore's first pick tonight. Mark Ingram's son said, and the Steelers still suck into the mic. So
It's the bus and the short bus. That's
Okay, didn't think that's how we were going to end the night.
well.
Unplug it. Go on there.
Well, it's been a great 2026 NFL draft. Okay.
I can't think of a better way to end the night. The 80th pick, the Baltimore Ravens selected Jacoby Lane, the wide receiver, out of USC. I'm so happy that this was the first year I was able to be a part of this draft show with everybody. I had a blast. I thank Vince for allowing me to be a part of it both last night and tonight, kind of trusting me with the host duties and kind of riding the bus here as we continue the bus logic. But it was a great night overall. A little more relaxed today. It was a little more faster paced with the second and third round picks going a little bit quicker. Super happy we got to see Drew Aller, the Medina product, come off the board. The Browns had a very, very good second round to, I think, all of our opinions. So it's a lot of bright spots looking forward to tomorrow in rounds 4 through 7 for the Browns. But for Brandon Marvel, for Dominic Clary, Brandon Soder-Penner, and Cole McDaniel out in Columbus, we thank you all for joining us, and this has been